Hello and welcome everyone. In this video, we're going to go through the Revit software version 2026. Now today, we're basically going to try to have a detailed conversation regarding all the items and features that we got in the software. Now some of the items might be old, some of them might be new. Nonetheless, just know that the items that we're going to discuss today would be extremely useful for all kinds of users. Talking about beginners, intermediates, or even pros. Now, to introduce myself briefly, guys, I've been working with Revit software for about 17 years as a user, an instructor, or a consultant in different projects. Now, guys, hopefully you would find this video beneficial enough, and at the end of the day, you would learn all about Revit 2026. Alright guys, that is all. I'm done with the preview and, well, promoting this whole thing. Without any further ado, let's begin our work. Alright guys, one of the most interesting parts or segments that we have in Revit 2026 is called Manage Links. Guys, using this item, different types of formats, different types of files would be displayed in a tab and you would be able to manage them easily. I'm talking about the imported CAD files such as DWG, DXF, DXM, AXM, and so on. And by the way, guys, you can manage all of these files in project templates and family templates. Talking about different formats, RVT, RTE, RFA, and RFT. And well, again, as I said, all of the files and formats that I mentioned earlier, a few seconds ago, would easily be manageable in this tab. Now, previously, we were only be able to see the linked files, but now we can see the imported files as well. Now, let's try working on an example, guys. I'm going to try linking some files, some CAD files. For example, this one. Now, another one. I'm going to set this on the second level. And back to 3D. So we just linked a couple of files here. Now, the current format that we have here is DWG. Let's see how we can manage these files now. I'm going to open up Manage Links. There we go. We have the files here. Now, I'm going to go back to this view here. I'm going to try setting some levels or level lines, if you will. Don't forget to activate Create Plan View. Now, let's say we want to see these plans, these levels only in floor, you know what, only structural plans. Give me floor plan as well, okay? Give me architectural for the type. And with 4 meters of offset. Okay, now back here, let's do it for the structure. Change the type. And 10 cm below. Alright, I need to rename this. Give me L1, yes, L0, select the level again, 100, downwards, right, L2 and L3. Now, from here, select these 3 levels, as plan. Let me see, this is correct, and for the discipline, structural. Yeah, structural. Yeah, now they are set here. Now for the architectural one, we have these 2. Select the type, and okay, this is correct. Subdiscipline, select this one. I guess we can delete this one. Alright, all good. Now, I can enter this level. This time, let's try using import, guys. I mean, we have some linked files. Now, let's try adding some imported files as well. So, this will be the first one. Now, next one. Structure. Import. Maybe this. Alright guys, so up to this point, we have 2 linked files and 2 imported files. Well, you can find them all in your Manage Links tab. And well, everything is completely specified here. As you can see, we have a couple of linked files and a couple of imported files. And guys, we are also able to apply some filters, such as CAD formats, let's say. Or, for example, only the Revit files. Or IFC. And well, if you had a lot of files, guys, you can easily just search for the one that you want up here. Like, I'm going to go with 2. See? Or 13.30. Here we go. Another interesting point, guys, if you by clicking on each file here, you would get some details, some information and data regarding that selected file on the right. See? And well, we can close this tab down whenever we want to. Also, here we got settings. Here we can add more columns and rows, or we can just deactivate the ones that you don't need. Let me maximize my tab. Now, for example, let's say we don't want the local or the version. Also resolution. Then position. These are all examples, guys. We might actually need these. I'm basically trying to show you that there's no limitations to adjusting this tab. Also, guys, by selecting each file, we'll see some icons up here. We actually had these icons in our previous versions as well, but here we got an easier access to them, you can say. And well, you can basically work with these quite more easily. By the way, guys, these options would be activated or deactivated based on the unit system and the formats of the linked and imported files that you have here. And also, guys, you would be able to link or import more files from here, from this segment. Now, you know what, let me add another file here, a CAD file, to talk about another point. For structural. Okay, guys, this file has been linked here. Take a look at this, guys. We can do a right click on this linked file and convert it into an imported file, but this doesn't work both ways. We can't convert an imported file into a linked file. So yeah, guys, basically, as you can see, we have quite of a control on the linked and imported files that we have, that we might use actually in a project. Now, guys, I'm going to enter a family template. It doesn't matter which one, say this one. Here, again, from insert, we can find manage links, which means that we have the same control on the linked and imported files here as well. For example, let me try to import a file here, maybe this test file. And now if I go back to this tab, you would see that you would find this file here. However, guys, remember, in family templates, this add item would be deactivated and you have to use this item, import CAD. But this isn't the case in project templates. All right, let me close this down and go back to our project. So, again, guys, using this tab, you would be able to manage many different types, I guess 9 different types of files and formats. Such as DWG, IFC, DXF, DXM, markups even, topographies, what else, PDF, coordinations, and, well, other files. And again, remember, both linked and imported files. This is very important. And guys, as another point, when we link or import a file, the files would be entered in our project with a specific category. For example, the SAT format, I guess the SAT format would give us a specific category. I guess the same goes for SketchUp. No, actually for Rhino, for the Rhino format. Also, I guess 3DM. We can specify categories here. Now, guys, the point here is these formats for which we can specify categories cannot be managed from the Manage Links tab because they would usually be considered as 3D objects and models that we would use in a project, not as separate files that we would link or import into a project. I mean, not as a separate item that we can hide or isolate, for example, just as some sort of a like piece of furniture or maybe some equipments. So that's why such formats, I mean, again, I'm talking about the formats for which you can specify particular categories. That's why you can't see such formats in this window. All right, and the last point that I can give you regarding this whole thing, if you weren't able to, well, you can say relate or connect with this version of this tab, you can always go back to the previous one. For doing so, you just need to close down your Revit file and then go to the path that I'm about to tell you. You need to enter your C folder, then user, then the system's name. After that, app data, rooming, Autodesk, then Revit, version 2026, and in here select Revit INI. Oh, and also for opening this file, you need to use Notepad++. It's going to be better. If you don't have it, you can easily download it. It is completely free. So we have many data here. Control F. I'm going to search for MIS. Find. Here we go. Let's see what we have here. Right, we don't have this here. Seems like, yeah, enter. And there we go. We got enable old manage links dialog. I'm going to set its value on 1. Save. And now we can reopen our software. Let's see what exactly has happened here. Insert and manage links. There we go, guys. This is the old version of this tab, which would honestly give us less features and items. All right, let me close this down again and set this on 0. No, 0. So this one, I mean, by setting this on 0, we'll get the new version again. By the way, 0 somehow stands for no. I mean, it says enable old managed links. I'm going to say no. Anyway, let's save this again and reopen Revit. And now we have the new version again. Oh, guys, I almost forgot. There's another point here. When we link or import some files, mostly in linked files actually, here we would see a path for them. And if we move our cursor on the path here, the whole path, the complete path would be displayed. Now, interestingly enough, guys, by doing a triple click on this path, it would be highlighted and we can, for example, use Ctrl+C to get a copy of it. Guys, honestly, this feature is extremely useful. And now, for example, I'm going to go ahead and press Ctrl+V to paste the path here. And now I would have a direct access to that AutoCAD file. So guys, basically, I mean, to put this whole thing simply, this technique, this trick, whatever you want to call it, is extremely useful for when you have a problem with your file's path, right? Like you can check and analyze your path in order to apply the required modifications. All right, that is all regarding this very interesting technique. Oh, also, guys, we have another way for opening up this Manage Links tab. From the project browser, we have Revit links here. We can do a right-click and open up this tab again. Also, we can find this in the Manage tab itself. Yeah, basically, all of these would work the same. All right, guys. The next item or the next feature that we have in Revit 2026 or that we can talk about here actually would be regarding the collaborative projects. Up until this version, guys, whenever we opened up or linked a Revit file with Worksharing, automatically a file would have been created for us called _backup, talking about this file here. And again, guys, we had something like this in the previous versions of the software. Now, guys, the thing is, usually we don't really use these backup files or backup folders. And well, to be honest, having them would be quite problematic, like they would make our main file heavier. And well, as a result of this, the different processes such as the reloading process, for example, would be more difficult. I mean, it would go through more slowly, you can say. In Revit 2026, though, we have no such thing, guys. Basically, this folder, this file has been omitted. In other words, now if we try linking or opening a Worksharing file here, no backup files would be created. Now, as a result of this, the processes that you would need during your works will go through more rapidly, and also you won't be getting any extra and unnecessary files. In other words, your main file would actually be quite lighter. Now, let me try giving you an example here. Let's say we have a Worksharing file, and I've copied it inside this path. Now, open. By the way, guys, when the file is Worksharing, down here we would see detach. I'm going to click on it, set this on all the work sets, and open. Wait for the file to be open. And well, actually, you can see this right now. There's no backup file here, guys. Only the main file is being opened up here. To be honest, guys, this item is not really crazy. It's not really complicated. Its function is what makes it so interesting. See, guys, this is the file that, the Worksharing file that we were trying to open here. Again, there is no backup file, and we can easily work with this however we want. And again, guys, the same thing would happen if we link a file. For example, I'm going to try to link the same file again. And again, no backup folder. Wait for the linking process to be done. Right, close. Done. Here we go. Let me just try using Revit to hide these CAD files. Right, now let's try opening the Manage Links tab again. Here we go. We have the linked file here. And as I said, by doing a triple click on the path, we would have access to it in order to, well, basically do whatever we need to do. All right, that would be all. Let me close this down. Now, guys, what if we actually needed that backup file? Well, remember that INI file that we worked with before? Here we can use it again. So let me open the file. Then Control F one more time. We need to search for backup here, guys, because it's the name of our file, right? Let's see whether we got anything here or not. Alright, so we have nothing here. We need to create one. For doing this, I need to open up these accolades, then type down backups. By the way, guys, the dictation is quite important here, so pay attention to this. Now enter, and for the value here, I'm going to use what Autodesk has given us. As you can see, it says disable skip backup folder creation when loading link. Now, equal to 0 stands for disable and 1 stands for enable. Now, guys, by default, you won't be getting such a file. So you can create this when you are sure that you want to set this on 1. And again, guys, if you ever wanted to do this, make sure that you would set the entire function here completely, correctly, and accurately without any mistakes. Now, guys, I don't really need this file here, so I'm going to remove it. And save. Alright, guys, remember, again, this feature, this item, technique, whatever you want to call it, basically, would be extremely useful and helpful for in the collaborative projects, in files that have Worksharing. Alright, guys, in Revit 2026, we have a new feature called Title Block Scale Override. Honestly, guys, if you're still working with the previous versions of the software, you're missing out. You would definitely need this item, guys. Let's see what it does. It is basically related to sheets. Let's say we got a sheet here, guys, containing several views with different scales. Scales such as 1/20th, 1/50th, 100th, and, well, basically so on. Up until this version of Revit, guys, when we're trying to set views inside our sheets, the title blocks would have shown some fixed up and unchangeable values, right? But now, in this version of the software, we are able to change these values based on what we exactly need. Let me try giving you an example here. I'm going to open up this file containing several sheets. Then I'm going to enter a sheet here containing several views. From detail, I'm going to select this. Now guys, take a look at this. If we check the scale, it should be saying, yeah, it actually says as indicated. I mean, all of the views that we have inside this sheet have their own specific and fixed up scales. More specifically, we got 3 different scales inside a single sheet. So, the software cannot decide which one to pick. That's why it says as indicated for the scale. Now, let's see what we're going to get in the new version. Scale is set on as indicated again, and below it we have scale override multiple value. If I click on edit here, you'd see a field with the same name again, but it is empty by default. Now, here obviously we can set a specific value. Now, to give you an example, I'm going to set this on as drawing reference. I guess this would work. So, okay. And now if we go back to our sheet, you would see this value here as well. And basically, guys, you can set whatever you want, or, it's better to say whatever you need to manage the sheets better. I mean, the best way possible. And remember, guys, you can't use numbers here. I mean, I can, for example, go with 100th. You know what? Let me change this to 1/2, 1/5, and 1/10. If I try applying this, I'll get an error. And we can't even combine the numbers, see? Again, we'll face another error. So, do not use any numbers in this field. Next up, guys, you can use global parameters here. Let me show you what I mean. From manage, I'm going to open up global parameters. Basically, guys, you can create different parameters here for different purposes and processes. Let's create one for the name, scale, override, 01. Set the type on text. As for the group, give me identity data. Right. This will do. After creating the parameter, we can specify a value for it. I'm going to go with the same thing as before. And after that, we can select this parameter here. Let me set it for this bar. Now guys, as I said, we might be using such parameters for different purposes, like for example, in different title blocks. In this case, we don't really need to edit the title block separately from here. If we are sure that we want the same value for all of them, we can just modify this parameter. Exactly like this. Done. Basically, guys, this is a new feature that we have in Revit 2026, and it is quite helpful in a documentation process. Guys, in this version of the software, we have 2 interesting, features or abilities when it comes to working with view references. Number 1, instance-based view. Let me try to elaborate on the first one first. So you got this zone here, this area, and we're about to create, or we actually create a callout or a section or even an elevation view. And we want to use them as references. Let me show you what I mean. Let me explain. Maybe a new level though. Okay, take a look at this part, guys. In this zone, we have, I guess this is a bathroom. And because this is a typical plan, we have the exact same thing on the other side here. Guys, let's say we've applied some specific modifications here, or basically just added some details. And we want the same thing here as well. Should we just go through the whole thing one more time, this time for this plan? Well, obviously no. We can use view references instead. Now, in order to give you a further demonstration here, I'm going to enter one of these views, these levels, this maybe. Yep. Now from the view tab, I'm going to select callout. Now basically guys, we can use this as a reference to another view that we want. Let me show you the view, this one. What's the name? Detail 2. If I select this, here we got view name, layout 3. And here we got detail 2. All right, let's go back here. Select. Let me see. 110. Select. And now let's set this here. As you can see, we'll get the same thing. All right, now if I do a double click on this, I'll enter the same view with the same modifications that we applied. So basically these are view references, but what's the point? In the previous versions, we would have seen similar here, which would have been controlled from the type properties. And if we wanted to set different values for our view references, we should have used duplicates each time. I mean, more precisely, for specifying values for default reference label, we should have gotten different duplicates, although the structure was the same. In Revit 2026, though, we don't really need to do this, guys. I mean, it still works based on this part, this item, but now there's an item, an instance parameter that we can work with called a reference label, and we can specify any value that we want for it. For example, sim layout 03. Here we go. This is it. Now let's try working on another example. Again, 110. And this time I'm going to go with a different kind of value like test. Or, basically any other thing that we want. As you can see, we don't really need to get any duplicates. Simple and convenient. Now, as I said, we have two interesting features. We talked about the first one, and number 2 is the ability to add share parameters. But remember, guys, this ability would work only on 4 categories: callout, head, elevation marks, section marks, and view references. Now, let me elaborate on this. What's the name here? IR detail callout head. So I'm going to copy this, close these down, and search for it in the project browser. Right click, edit. All right. Now here from the create tab, I'm going to select label. Now I'm going to click here, and as you can see, the shared parameter item is activated. So click on it, select, yes, create. Now I need a name, Revit 2026, and save. Now I would be able to create a shared parameter for these view references. I need a group first. Let's call it view references. Right, now let's create the parameter for its name, REV. Yeah, it would be a text. Okay, let's go back and add. Now I need REV to be a fixed value. All right, wrap activated and done. I need to change this a little bit as well. Again, REV for the size, give me 1.5. And I'm just going to set it down here. Underneath this. Now let's load this in. Override. As you can see, we have a completely new value here. Now, up here from Manage, Project Parameters, click on New, Shared, and specify this new parameter here on the views. And now, if I go ahead and select this, in the Properties tab, you'll see this parameter. Let me enter this view again. Here we go. Let's call this PO1. And now if I go back here, you'd see this PO1 here as well. And guys, as I said, you can also do this in sections and elevation views. You know what? Let's try this for a section. Copy the name. Or let me close this one down. I'm not going to save it. Now let's find this here. Edit. Now let's work on adding the parameter. And we can actually go with the parameter that we created before. Or basically any other thing that we want. Apply and OK. Wrap activated and load into our project. Override. Now again, if I go ahead and select this in the Properties tab, we would find REV. Now we can specify a value for this. I'm just going to copy paste something here. And immediately afterwards, it would be displayed in the viewport. Basically, there's no limitation here, guys. You can go with any value that you want. This is a very interesting item, honestly. Could be quite helpful in documentation. In Revit 2026, guys, there's an item which is quite simple, but, well, extremely useful, more precisely for those of you who want to work with Toposolids, floors, roofs, and so on. And basically, if you need shape editing. Guys, when we use shape editing, it doesn't really matter for what. The purpose is not important here for now. When we use shape editing, we would be able to get a copy of the settings and modifications that we would apply in order to paste them on another element. Let me try giving you an example here. I'm going to tell this first level, and I'm going to try creating a Toposolid here. From meshing inside, select Toposolid, select top, and start drawing something like this. Finish. Now we can use modify sub-element here, guys, or shape editing to apply some modifications. For example, I'm going to set this on 1 meter, 1000 millimeters. Then I'm going to add some points. Next up, give me 500. Some other points. Now, let's say we have another form here. It could be similar, it could be completely different. Let me reset this. And we basically want to apply the same modifications on this one as well. So I'm going to select these, copy to clipboard. Okay. Now let's select the other form, this one. Edit and paste or Control V. And we can actually paste the modifications. Let me change this a bit. Okay. And we can change the modifications, paste the modifications on the same element as well. To create some interesting forms. Now guys, remember, we basically use this technique when we have some points and vertices for creating, we can say, topographies or basically slopes in some floors. And then, let's say we want to use those topographies or slopes in another place, in another area. Yeah, in such cases, you can use this technique to add a lot of paste to your works. And again, guys, as I mentioned earlier, this interesting technique works on Toposolids, floors, and roof. You know what, let me give you an example on the floors. Say we got this floor here. I'm going to copy another one next to it. Now, again, let's select this and try applying some modifications on this. Use add split line this time. You know what, to work more accurately, I'm going to enter this level. And, okay, I don't need this cat file here. Let's remove it for now. Then let's do a reset as well. Now, I'm going to select reference. Set the offset on 10 cm. I guess this will do. Now let's try setting some references here as if we're trying to create a frame here, like this maybe. Now I'm going to try, I want to use this intersection point as the base point, and then basically I'm trying to add some references and then copy them to the other form. Now add split line, set the first one here, And again, basically just use these references to create this frame form. After creating this form, I'm going to use this point here to create some sort of a slope in this form. Now guys, the reason that I created this, you can say framework before adding the slope was the fact that later on we might need to add something like a finishing layer to this whole thing, okay? Now, let's go to the 3D view for a second. All right, we got this form here. Let's try copying it to the other one. So back here, select, modify, and then try selecting this specific drawing like this. Now Control C. Now select the other form, edit, and Control V. I think we actually need some references to create this form here completely accurately. So you know what, let me just go back here, Control Z, or let me just reset this. As I said, I'm going to use a reference, 90, I guess, 10, and 100. Now let's try doing the same thing here. Again, I'm going to use these dimensions. Now select, modify, Control V, and then try setting this here right at this point. Again, the exact same slope would be set here. Alright, so basically guys, if you ever needed similar modifications and settings in different areas, you can use this technique. Now guys, there's a new feature introduced in Revit 2026 called Accelerated Graphics. Now guys, regarding this item or feature, it is still in fact in its test run stage, and we can basically use it for checking the software's graphical functioning. Now, in my opinion, guys, this feature is actually awesome. I like it very much. It is quite useful. And well, I'm sure in the next versions of the software, in the next upgrades, this feature would become more upgraded and, well, in fact, more professional. For now, though, let's just go through what we have. Let's see what this item exactly does for us. First and foremost, guys, this item, more precisely, accelerated graphics could be used in both 3D and 2D views. 2D such as plans, sections, and elevation views. As an example, if I enter this view, you would see this icon up here. Also, we can have access to this item by doing a right click on our viewport, on our workspace. There is no difference here. Now guys, for further elaboration, let me enter a 3D view. Alright. By the way guys, this item is deactivated for now. Anyway guys, if we try rotating, orbiting, panning, zoom in and zoom out here, some of the graphical features such as some of the patterns would temporarily be removed from the model. And then after we're done with our navigating process, I'm still talking about those processes that I just mentioned a few seconds ago, like zoom in, zoom out, orbiting, panning, and so on. Yeah, basically after we're done, the graphical features would appear again. Let's see this one more time. Alright. Also, guys, as for another thing, there's some sort of a lagging, like the navigating is not being done quite smoothly. It's kind of like instead of moving around, it is jumping around. So guys, in order to have a more smooth and better navigating, we can use this item, Accelerated Graphics. When we click on it, we'll get this message. In this tab, first we'll see a description on the item. It says that using this item, you'll have a better navigation process, talking about zoom in, zoom out, panning, orbit, and so on. It says how you can activate or deactivate this item, and also, for more settings, you need to go to options. And you know what? Let's do that. Let's go to the options. From graphics, we can find the options related to this item. If I disable the item from here, it would completely be deactivated in our viewport, see? And in case we needed the item again, we need to enter the options and enable it one more time. Now here we got two options, guys. If we go with the first one, will have access to the item from the ways that I mentioned earlier. Oh, and by the way, we can move this icon around, as you can see. And we also have a list here, oh well, actually some options that we can use to specify a fixed location for setting this item. Or we can even hide this and show it one more time whenever we want. Now, if we go with the second option, guys, the item would be hidden, but we would still have access to it by doing a right click. And honestly, in my opinion, the second way is quite more professional. For now, though, I'm just gonna go with the first option so that you would be able to see the item. So yeah, let me just select this. And okay. Now guys, when we activate this item, our workspace or our viewports frame would turn blue. And now if we try navigating again, as you can see, the whole thing would go through more smoothly and nothing would be hidden or removed. Talking about the graphical features, such as some colors or patterns that we have here. Guys, this happens here because now your GPU, by activating this item, your GPU is being active. And now you won't be facing any problems when you want to go through such processes. And well, now obviously we would have better control on our workspace. And also guys, if we close down our current view, talking about this 3D one for example, and then reopen it, the item would be deactivated once more. Moreover guys, this item would be activated only in current views. Like currently it is activated, but if we go to this plan, as you can see, it is deactivated again. And we need to manually and separately turn this on here. Let's go back. As you can see, we can easily navigate in our view. Now, in my opinion, guys, this item would be extremely essential. I mean, knowing about it and knowing how to use it would be extremely essential when you are working on a large project, when you're covering a large scale. As we just saw, it would help us work more easily. Let me give you an example. Let me find a file. Alright, take a look at this. I'm going to activate the item. And after that, I'm going to try navigating in the viewport. As you can see, everything is quite smooth. I mean, everything is being done quite smoothly. Zoom in, zoom out. There's no low quality, no limitations, nothing. No problem. Well, you know what, guys? Actually, this isn't true. We have some limitations, in fact, which is quite logical. Because as I said, this is a completely new feature. It's just been added to Revit, and it is a test run, in fact. Let's see what these limitations are. By the way, guys, I turned the item off, and, well, the difference in between navigating with and without this item is quite detectable. Anyway, let us discuss these limitations. The first point that I need to mention regarding these limitations is that they might actually vary based on your model. First off, we can talk about graphical views. Now, to talk about this, let me find a sheet here. As the thing is, inside the sheets, this item would be deactivated, and this is the case in some other views, either deactivated or it won't work properly. Let me open up a drafting view. Alright, seems like we have no drafting views. Doesn't matter, let's create one. And you know how to create a drafting view. Okay? Now if I do a right click here, as you can see, again, it is deactivated. How about legends? Well, actually the same goes in legends. Now, I'm going to go back to the 3D view, maybe this one that is lighter. I'm going to activate shadows. Here, turn them on. You know what, let me add an object here in order to get the shadows. Alright guys, now I'm going to go ahead and activate Solo Study down here. And then I'm going to try using the item. The thing is, it might work, but not properly enough. To put this whole thing simply, guys, the item would be activated, we would be able to select and use it, but it might not work properly because it doesn't really support the shadows for now. So currently, guys, if you're working with solar study or even shadows, you don't really need to work with this item. Alright, so let me just turn this off for now. Okay, guys, walkthrough is another thing that won't be supported by this item just yet. Also, guys, texture as a graphical display mode, texture won't be supported here as well. And yeah, basically these would be all the graphical limitations that this item, accelerated graphics, has. Now, how about geometrical limitations? Well, let's find out. Currently, guys, the files, the models that you would insert from coordination model here, talking about NWC or NWD models, cannot be supported by this item. You know what, let me try giving you an example here. I'm going to open up Recap Pro for a second. I've got a sample file here somewhere. Let's try linking this sample file. Right, I need save as. Copy the path. Right, now back to Revit again. I'm going to use point cloud here and link this file. By the way, guys, we have a new feature up here called Recap Mesh, which we'll be discussing later on. This is quite interesting, and well, as I said, it has been added in Revit 2026. For now, I'm just going to select this and move it out for a second. If I try using accelerated graphics, as you can see, the point cloud file would be hidden. You can only get a preview. Right, let me disable this. Guys, the same thing happens in coordination models. So again, basically, guys, these geometrical files and items cannot be supported by this item just yet. Talking about coordination models and point cloud files. Okay, let me remove this, guys. I guess we still have some other graphical limitations that we can discuss. For example, in patterns, some of the lines and edges cannot be supported. Let me elaborate on this. I'm going to activate show line weights. I should be able to see these. Okay, let me select this and open up type properties to find out what I'm exactly working with here. I've got primary and secondary counters. I'm going to copy one. Then I'm going to open up the visibility and graphics. Then find secondary counters here and try increasing the thickness. Okay, let me see. I'll set this one on 5, I guess, and with a green color maybe, or blue actually. All right, now here give me a red color and give me 10 for the weight, aka thickness. All good. Now, guys, immediately after activating accelerated graphics, all the line weights and thicknesses that we specified would disappear, and we would see all the lines here with a single thickness. Okay? Because as I said before, these pattern lines cannot be supported in this version. Now, items and elements that have cut patterns. You know what, guys? Let me set a section box here. See, we got a cut pattern here, and as I said, it can't be supported. However, guys, surface patterns can in fact be supported. I'm going to select this and open up the type. Try adding a pattern for it. So, I'm going to open up surface pattern. Model, give me this one. Okay, now let's see. I'm going to go ahead and activate accelerated graphics. Well, as I said, and as you can see, surface patterns are being supported. Also, guys, as for another thing, I'm going to try selecting this, and then from override by elements, I'm going to give it a transparency. The point that I have here is that transparency is another graphical mode that won't be selected by this item. And it doesn't really matter how we apply this transparency. It could be from filters, from visibility and graphics. Overall, this mode is not being supported by this item just yet. All right, let me see what we have here. These are planting from visibility and graphics. I'm going to try applying transparency to these plan things. And well, after that, if I activate the item again, we'll get nothing. However, guys, there is an exception here. Transparency could in fact be supported if we apply it from the Material Browser tab. Otherwise, as I said before, it won't be supported. Transparency won't be supported. Let me try giving you an example here. I'm going to open up Material Browser and try applying the transparency from here. Right now, if I try activating the item, as you can see, these would be supported as well. Right, and yeah, that would be an exception that we have here. Okay, guys, the next point that we can talk about here is if we have, you know what? Let me just enter one of these plans. Maybe this one. If we have used colors for specifying different areas, different zones in a plan, let's say, for example, we have used some legend items such as color fill legend. Yeah, for example, if you have used an item such as this one for specifying a zone or something, then also if you try using accelerated graphics, what's going to happen is that the quality would in fact be reduced. So we can somehow say that this one is not being supported completely. Yeah, it can be supported, well, just a little bit, not completely. All right. Also, guys, you know what? I was going to talk about shadows, but we talked about shadows. Another graphical feature that can't be supported here would be backgrounds. Same goes for sketching effects. All right. Let me go back to one of these LiDAR files. Yeah, here. If I enter the graphical display options, this tab, and then here I'm going to activate sketchy lines. Well, as I said a few seconds ago, this feature cannot be supported by accelerated graphics. So yeah, sketchy lines, shadows, background. What else? I guess we also have a problem or face a limitation if we use depth queuing, guys. By the way, we would only be able to use this item. We only use this item in an architectural discipline for sections and views. Nonetheless, depth queuing won't be supported either. And also, view range cannot be displayed quite properly here as well. For example, we got a view range here. If I activate the item, the view range won't be functioning properly. Like some of the items and elements that are set outside the view range might be displayed as well. Okay. Let me enter another view now and activate the item again. Well, basically we might see something like this. Why this one is being displayed though, guys? Well, because crop view is not supported here. All right, let me try to elaborate on this. Let's say we have, let me enter a plan. I'm going to remove these. Also, I'm going to select all of these. Turn off the section box. Select this again. Back to plan. And move this here. Now, I'm going to activate the crop view and try specifying the boundaries like this. Okay, now I'm going to activate the item again. As you can see, crop view won't be applied here correctly. To make it right, we should set this outside the boundary. Otherwise, even 1 millimeter would create a dysfunction. Now, obviously, if we deactivate the item, it'll start to work correctly. But if we try using it again, as you can see, once again, the crop view won't be a factor. All right, let me turn this off and set this back again. Guys, we might face such a problem in so many areas of our project. Let me try setting a wall somewhere. I'm going to go with a stacked wall, maybe. So I want my wall to have a finishing layer as well. I'm going to activate the section box here and then the item. Take a look at this. The wall shape is not being supported here. So yeah, this is another type of limitation that we have here. I'm going to turn the section box off. Right now, let me see what else we have here. I'm going to go back to, I'm going to enter the second level. Don't need this cat file for now, so I'll remove. The wall that we have here is underlay, guys. Let me deactivate this. I don't want the underlay to be selected. Anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that this item does not support underlays or haftons. If I deactivate the item, as you can see, this would turn translucent again. Yeah, guys, that would be all regarding the limitations that we have. And overall, this would be accelerated graphics, a new feature in Revit 2026. Guys, in Revit 2026, we'll have access to Dynamo version 3.4.1. Let me show you the version here as well about, see, version 3.4.1. Now, basically, here we got some new features and items that could be quite useful for both people who try to develop the scripts and also people who just use the scripts. First feature that we're going to discuss is a sub-item of extensions. Here we have show tune-ups. Using this item, you can understand how long it takes for each node to function. Because if a node took a long time to function, or for example, its process was taking a long time to be done, there might be a problem. This is a managing tool, guys. Now, as an example, I guess we have a Revit sample file here, that we can use. We're using this Revit color. Let's go back to Revit and try setting some walls here. Several walls within no specific form, and I'm going to set them in different heights actually. Now let's try selecting all the walls and run. Now here we have a time range, guys, for each script that we can check out. Like, as I said, how long does it take for each script to be run up? Well, at the moment, these are all right. Yeah, so basically, as I said, this is a managing tool that you can use to check the time range for each script or node and apply the required modifications if needs be. The next feature is a sub-item of the Package tab, and it is called Package Manager. Now, when we try to install a package, guys, here we'll get some information regarding it. For example, its version and also the required version. I mean, the one that has the best consistency with your Dynamo's version would be presented here for you to install. Now, we have other versions that we can select from this list, but we don't really need to because the best one and the most upgraded one would always be selected automatically. Now, guys, let's try having a discussion regarding Python and Python scripts. Let me open this up. Basically, guys, in this version, here we go. In this version, guys, Python Net 3 would be used for applying and performing the scripts. Now, this actually has some advantages to it, like, for example, it supports C# performance, or it would be upgraded completely separately from Revit or Dynamo. And yeah, I guess that would be all for now. Let me close this down, remove. Now, guys, some of the nodes have actually been replaced, and about 200 nodes have been upgraded. And also, guys, considering the fact that we don't have CSI values in Revit anymore, later on we're going to talk about these architectural concepts more. For now, let me enter here. Currently, guys, in Revit software, CSI related parts and parameters such as classification number or classification title are emitted. We only got classification here. So, guys, if you scripted CSI structured nodes in Dynamo, such as only class number, keynotes, or even assembly codes, you won't really be able to work with them, and they have to be modified. Well, they should in fact be modified based on what we have in Revit 2026. The next point would be regarding structural elements, guys. If you're working with such elements, let me try giving you an example, maybe a column. a steel column. Alright. The point here is, guys, here we have no such thing as length anymore. Instead, we got system length. So basically, guys, if you've created some particular parameters, maybe for specifying the length, more precisely for specifying the length of an element, they should be changed to system length. Otherwise, they won't work. And what else? As I mentioned earlier, some nodes are replaced with new ones. Some of them are upgraded, and well, there are actually a lot of them. Guys, you can be informed about all of these changes from this segment, node changes. You can find out which nodes are removed, what are the replacements. There are some documentation notes here. And well, basically we got a vast amount of info regarding this whole thing, and you can go through them yourselves. That will be all regarding all the changes that we have in this version of Dynamo. Guys, in Revit 2026, in coordination models, we have a very interesting upgrade. In previous versions of the software, we were able to work with Navisworks files, talking about NWD or NWC formats. Now we can manage them completely separately. For example, we can apply different colors for them. And by the way, guys, if you use Autodesk Docs, you would be able to apply such modifications on the categories. And this enhances the visibility and overall the quality of your work. Now, let me try giving you an example here. Local. I already got some NWD sample files here. I'm going to open them. In fact, I'm linking these files, guys. Plumbing, then HVAC, and electrical. Now, guys, just as a quick reminder, accelerated graphics won't support coordinations and point clouds files. So now that we are working with them, just leave this deactivated. Again, guys, this is just for now. This problem might be solved in the next versions. Alright, I'm going to press VG and enter this tab, coordination. Guys, I said that when we use Autodesk Docs, aka ACC, you can specify colors for your categories. And if you use local, like what I did, you can specify colors for the files. For example, I'm going to set a color for the electrical file. Right, apply. So you can see all the files are distinguished now by separate colors. And we can always do more, guys. Like, for example, I'm going to add transparency. Let me brighten this one up a bit. Here we go. All the disciplines are completely separated through different colors. Guys, this feature would be extremely helpful and useful when it comes to checking or basically analyzing a model, analyzing a project, a file, whatever. Right? Also, guys, if you hide a model in your viewport, we'd be able to use reveal hidden element to see that element. Okay, or we can enter the manage links again. We also can see the coordination models and files. Let me select one, this maybe. And up here we have show. If we click on it, the selected file would be revealed in the viewport. As you understand how useful this is when you started working on a large project. Okay, let me isolate this one. Alright. Now, guys, let's talk about the architecture discipline a little bit and the enhancements that we have in this software, in this version of the software regarding it. Let's begin with Toposolid. In this segment, in this version, actually, we have many changes. Well, actually, dare I say, fascinating changes. We got upgraded features, we got some new and replaced ones as well. For example, as for one of the upgraded parts, we can talk about subdivisions. It's gotten quite better, guys. Let me show you how. I'm going to set this Toposolid here. I'm going to enter one of the plans and set the Toposolid. Alright. Now, as you already know, here we are able to use some CSV files or CAD files. I mean, we had this in the previous versions. Let me see. I want to go with this, actually. Yeah, let's just open this in the viewport. All right. Now, from Massing Inside up here, and from Toposolid, click on Select Imported File. Give me CAD, select, and OK. All right, we got our topography. Let's see what kind of changes we got. Let me just hide my AutoCAD file in this view. Right. Let's talk about subdivision, guys. In previous versions, we also had subdivision, but we only had it as a sub-item of Toposolid, and we were only able to work on their materials. Now, though, it works completely separately as a separate item or command. It has sub-items such as offset. It's being used in the excavation-related processes quite accurately, and overall, it has gotten quite enhanced. I'm going to select Subdivide and try using this rectangle to create something like this here. Okay, finish. Now, first and foremost, I can select this and from Type Selector, change its type. Alright, now guys, if we select the Toposolid itself, here we would see a defined excavation volume for it. See? The exact amount. Now, as I said, we can specify offset for our subdivision, and we can go with both positive and negative numbers. Like, give me -500, or -1000, 2000. And we can basically continue like this. Now, as another thing, guys, we can create another subdivision on the one that we already have. Maybe like this. Finish. Let's change or select another type for it again. And the result would be something like this. We can control the thickness, guys, completely separately. It's kind of like we're working with floor. See, we have some parameters, many parameters here that we can work with here as we want. All right, now let's select this, and this time let's try a positive offset. Give me 100. Maybe more, 300. Something similar to the thickness. As you can see, both of these are completely separate here. Alright guys, now let me try giving you another point. I'm going to select this and then click on Edit Type. Let me select another type, guys. Maybe this one. Now give me a duplicate. Let's call it Test. Thickness on 100. Let's see now. We need more because we have an offset here. Let's set this on 0. Let's try doing this again. Okay, apply. Alright guys, we have an overlap situation here because these are two separated elements. So I'm going to deactivate variable. I'm going to set this on 7 millimeters. Yeah, it kind of works. Alright guys, the point that I want to tell you here is that when we add a subdivide with the thickness or height basically less than 8 millimeters, the software would automatically changes this value to the least amount of value that can be supported. Otherwise, we might face some errors and the element might be removed, and the software does this because it wants to prevent these errors and problems. And by the way, this value usually is 8 millimeters. Yeah, basically such a value would automatically be specified so that the element would be preserved. Alright, I'm going to go back here and set the thickness on 5 this time. And again, the software would automatically set this on a logical value, which is 8 millimeters, as I said. That's why the calculations might not exactly be the ones that you had in mind. That was the first point regarding subdivisions. Next up, we can talk about visibility and graphics. here, if we enter Toposolid, we can find subdivision as a separate subcategory. We can turn them on and off. We can control their visibility. All right, and now another interesting feature, guys. We got points threshold. In other words, accurate control on points and vertices. In Revit 2026, guys, 2 files are added to our main file, Revit.ini. Let me open up this file. We actually have this in Notepad. Yeah. Let me find the additional segments here. All right, there they are. Talking about these two. These two parts, these two parameters are added. First one is called native Toposolid max point threshold. As you can see, by default, a value has been defined for it. We can use this parameter whenever we wanted to use files with formats such as DWG or CSV for creating a topography. Through using this parameter, we can specify how many, or actually the most amount of vertices that we need for creating a topography. The second parameter is called length Toposolid max point threshold. We can use this parameter whenever we wanted to link a Revit file containing topographies. Now guys, basically topographies contain many points, and this fact could have an impact on the performance of our software. Let's say you are specialized in disciplines such as electrical, mechanical, or even structural. And now, let's say during your work you need to link an architectural file containing topographies. In such cases, guys, you don't really need a lot of quality. You just need to see the form of the topography. So, you can in fact go ahead and reduce the points. And well, for doing so, you can use this parameter here. And yeah, basically now we got these two additional parameters that we can work with, we can use based on what we need. And by the way, the default value that these parameters have is 20,000. And there's actually a range here from 10,000 to 50,000. Smaller numbers would give us less accurate models, and well, higher numbers would give us more accurate ones. Next up, we can talk about an enhanced or an upgraded feature. Here we got, let me find it. We're going to talk about graded region. In previous versions of the software, after using this item or this feature, we weren't able to calculate the exact amount of excavation. But now, in this version, such calculations would actually be done based on our topography's boundary. That's why we'll get more accurate calculations regarding this matter. Now, honestly, guys, this was quite of an issue in previous versions. Many users claim that their models are not being completely accurate because of this, well, you can say limit or problem in Revit. But now in this version, we don't have such a problem. Oh, and guys, now that I said problem, we also had another problem in Revit, in previous versions of the Revit in Toposolids, when we were using voids for creating cuts in the topographies. The void command wasn't really working if we had a complex topography, you can say. We weren't able to set a cut. Honestly, this was a huge problem in the previous versions, mostly in the 2024 version. It got a little bit better in 25th version, and now it is completely solved, we can say. Guys, what's happening here is that the software somehow has made the cuts that we would create using voids more stabilized. If we try doing this, in fact, let me try to give you an example. Here I'm going to go with a generic model. And then I'm going to use void. Let me rotate this. Need to pick a plane, maybe this face. Then I'm going to set a circle here. Finish. Let's extend this to here. Then I'm going to convert this into a cut. Okay, so basically, no matter what kind of cut we want, we're going to get it. To give you another example from massing inside, and place. Okay. Let's set a rectangle outside the topography. Then I'm going to move it here. After that, I'm going to use void for to create a void here. Okay. Moving this a bit more downwards. Oh, no, actually, let's move it upwards instead. And now let's create the cut. Again, as you can see, we're going to get the cut. Now, the reason that we would face almost no limits when we want to create the cuts is the fact that when we try creating cuts using voids, the software might detect some problems. Problems with the form of our voids. In this case, Revit would automatically modify the form, not severely, just a little bit, so that the cut or a cut could be created out of that void. Now, this modification, guys, might, or you know what, it would in fact have an impact on your calculations. That's why you would actually be informed about these changes and modifications by the software through a warning. So yeah, basically, don't be worried if you ever faced such situations and conditions. Because, well, as I said before, no matter what, we're actually going to have the cut that we wanted. Alright guys, let's move on to the next point. We got some contour lines here. In previous versions, guys, these contour lines wouldn't move on the subdivisions. And we could have, for example, select this, and then in the properties tab, we could have seen an item, and by activating it, we could have specified whether we want the contour lines to move on the topography, on the subdivisions or not. And I think we actually had this item in the 25th and 24th version of the software, if I'm not mistaken. Nevertheless, we have no such thing in Revit 2026 because now this is a completely separate element. And that's why we don't really have that item here anymore. And unfortunately, I don't really remember the name of the item, so let's just move on. Alright guys, early on I said that we are able to control the number of the points and vertices that we have when we link a topography file, okay? Well, up here we have link topography. Let's talk about this point. So yeah, take a look at this. I have a civil 3D file here, guys. I'm going to open this up, then size version 3, and I've got this topography file here. Now, I would be able to specify the base level as well as the type of the topography. For example, I'm going to go with this and link. Alright, here it says number of mesh triangles exceeds the maximum limit. Now, we can either cancel this or continue with it. And if we do continue, the software would automatically modify the whole thing. So I'm just going to hit OK. When I do this, the topography would be linked here according to the specified number of points that we have in our INI file. Well, at the end, this would be the result, the end result that I'll get out of everything. Now guys, after all of this, we can select this and up here use, for example, excavation or even subdivision. Well, honestly, this is quite interesting, guys. We just linked a civil 3D file that was saved in cloud inside Revit in our viewport, and now we are able to use these items on it like subdivide. And as for another perk, guys, now we actually have access to more information when we want to create topographies in Revit. Alright, I just changed the type here. And now I'm going to try, for example, increasing the thickness to 500. Alright, and then maybe an offset like 200. And also, guys, now you can actually see how much the excavation volume is being affected with this, by this whole thing. So yeah, guys, as you can see, now we are able to work with civil 3D files as well. You can change their type. And yeah, basically many other features and abilities that weren't really possible in the previous versions. Basically, guys, these techniques and features could easily increase the quality and accuracy of your works. Alright guys, in Revit 2026, if we go ahead and select a wall, then open up Type Properties, and then enter Edit Assembly, here we would be able to set the core outside the core boundary. Guys, this technique is extremely useful for the finishings, basically. I mean, if we try creating finishing layers for our walls, and it could basically be any type of wall, by the way, like give me plaster. Here we can set these outside our core, and this could actually create better and more accurate connections in between the wall and the floor beneath it, and also the wall with other finishing layers. Okay, let me go back here and try. You know what, let me enter a plan here first. First level. Then I'm going to delete this wall for now. I'm going to sketch this wall. Well, as I said, now this wall would be joined up with the floor beneath it and also with the other items and elements more accurately. Because as I said, the core here won't be a factor anymore. Just remember guys, if you were working with interior finishing layers, all of these should be set downwards, towards inside interiorly, and if you were working with exterior ones, these should be set upwards, towards the exterior side. Alright, next up we can talk about priority, guys. Now in the previous versions, these indexes were actually set on the functions themselves. But now we have them as a completely separate segment or separate column, which means that these functions could be controlled and managed more accurately. Let me try elaborating on this. Say we got a couple of walls here, like this. Now, let's say we want to prioritize the connections that we have in these two walls. Let me get a duplicate here. And then I'm going to open up Edit Assembly and set all of these on 4. Which means that the priority is in fact with this layer. Let's see. It actually got to this point here. So this is quite helpful. So overall, we learned about 2 points or 2 concepts. First, we are able to prioritize our functions, our layers here. And also we can somehow remove the core and set the rest of the layers outside the core's boundary. And remember guys, this isn't a case for the framework layers. This is just for the finishing layers. Oh, and as another point guys, you can actually do this for all the elements and items that have layers, such as roofs, ceilings, floors, basically all of them. It is not only specified for the walls. You know what, let me give you an example for the floors. I open up Edit Assembly. You'll see the same parameters and items as before. For example, again, I'm going to set this finishing layer outside the core. And we can set the other functions exactly based on what we need, which could help us work more accurately. So these are the points that we need to consider. Let me sketch this floor here. Okay. I need something like this. Okay. Let me also do some editing here, like try moving this outwards to set it underneath the wall. Yeah. As another feature, a new feature that we have for the walls in this software, in this version, is the fact that we are able to model the finishings automatically. I'm going to select wall, and I'm going to use this wall to create some zones, some rooms, let's say. Yeah, something quite random. I'm going to set this on 100. Then try creating some interior areas as well. Again, guys, I'm working completely hypothetically here. And what else? Maybe moving this a bit upwards. Yeah, I guess that would be enough. I'm going to select everything from the 0 level up to the first one. This would be the main structure. Now, next up, I'm going to use floor. For the type, give me this one. Select all the exterior edges. No. Set this on this level. Now give me some doors, DR. And I'm going to try setting some doors here again, completely hypothetically. Well, in a way that actually makes sense. All right. Another one down here. And also some windows. Entering 3D. Yeah, this will do. WT set the two views next to each other. And next up, I'm going to select room. Now I'm going to set this on the first level. This one on 0. I'm going to convert these zones into rooms. Now again, select the whole thing. Now open up filters. Select room and also room tags. Okay, I'm going to select this separately. Set this on center. Now let's do this for the room tags. And again, center to make sure that they would be set right in the middle. Now again, give me another room separator, because I need a separate room here. Okay, again, open up filters, room, center, and again, room tag. Guys, all of these are new features that we have in this version. Now let's specify names for these rooms. For example, here, kitchen. All right. Then this zone would be living room or something. This one would be our bedroom. And another one up here, maybe as a child room. These two would be our bathrooms. One for shower, the other one for toilet. All right. Right, our rooms are completed. Guys, basically, when we're done with our phase 1 stage, more specifically when we're done with setting the framework, the next stage, or working on the finishing walls, would be quite easy. You just need some pre-made finishing walls. Like, for example, your template might actually have some. Basically, you can automatically set the finishing walls based on the rooms using these items. You know what, for better elaboration, let me add some columns here as well. I guess this way you'll understand the whole concept better. I'm going to try adding these columns to the corners. And I'm basically trying to display everything better. Don't mind where I'm setting these columns actually. Now remember guys, through using columns, we are also able to specify rooms. That's why they can be used here. Let me do some further trimming to try to work a little bit more accurately. All right. You can actually see these columns in our 3D view. Now, I'm going to go ahead and select wall. And up here we have a couple of items. We got place by room and place by segments here, guys. Now I'm going to open up the type selector here and try selecting a wall that could be used as a kitchen wall. After selecting the type, I just need to click on the item, then click on the room. And the finishing layer would be added to the entire room. Ctrl Z. It didn't work on the openings. We have a couple of items that we can use for solving our problem here. We Yeah, auto join and auto join and lock. And I guess it is quite obvious what these do. Now I'm going to go with the second one, then click here. Now it is correctly done. And by the way, guys, in this version, auto join would give us more accurate joins in the corners. I mean, where we have several walls joining or connecting at one point. In previous versions, we actually had some problems regarding this matter, but now we have none. Right, now, once again, I'm going to go ahead and select plaster. And I'm going to click here. See? Another finishing wall. And well, we can basically continue doing this in all the areas, all the rooms. This one here is a bathroom, as we said, WC. And now let's say we need a different pattern here, different design. I'm going to go with segment, place by segment. For example, these two edges would have the same pattern and give me this tile for these two walls. And well, for this room, let's do this in reverse. Again, this tile for these two walls. So as you can see, we can use segment to create different designs and patterns as well. What's going on here? We actually prioritize these walls, so based on what we need, we can set these, for example, outside or inside the core. Move this down. Because I actually have used split here on this wall, I need to set their functions on the same priority. Why did I say this so difficult? To specify the same priority, basically. Yeah, I need to do this to prevent getting any warnings and errors. Now let me see. I just need to move this down. Okay. Yeah, we can basically apply the same type of modifications anywhere that we want. Not only this method, this technique is accurate, guys, it is actually quite fast. You just need to create your framework, and then for the finishing walls, well, everything will be done quite automatically. Also, guys, if you had a ceiling and wanted to control the walls based on that ceiling, currently what we have here is being controlled based on the architectural level by default. See? What I can do here would be selecting the finishing walls. We could have actually done this when we were drawing these. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm going to set this on the first level to move it a bit more downwards. Okay, this one wasn't selected. So now I'm going to select it and do the same. And I guess the rest are alright. As I was saying, guys, if we wanted to control these based on a ceiling, we can use the global parameter that we talked about earlier. So let's create this parameter. I'm going to call it ceiling 600. And for the value, give me -600. And guys, we might have different ceilings with different heights. So let me create another parameter, ceiling 800. And for the value, -800. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and try selecting these areas. Okay. And then set their top offset on ceiling -800. As you can see, I don't really need to specify anything manually. Okay, this wall is a framework, so I'll set this on none. 0. Now let's select the rest of the walls. -600. And by the way, guys, these values that we specified for our global parameters are easily changeable. See, we can easily go with anything that we want. Extremely useful, yet simple to work with. Another interesting fact that we have, another interesting feature that we have in Revit 2026 is the fact that we are able to create custom parameters for our sheet collections. This way, guys, the same parameters that should repeatedly be set on different sheets would be set on them automatically. To give you an example, I'm going to use Sheet Maker, which is one of the sub-items of PyRevit plugin, to create some sheets. We talked about all of these in our PyRevit tutorial. Okay. Now, we have several sheets here. Now, to create a sheet collection, we can do right-click here and select Sheet Collection. Now, we can specify some names. Now, guys, you can sort these collections based on different criteria, such as phasing, different methods of drawing, and basically anything. I'm going to select the architectural ones here and drag them inside this collection. Now, let's create another collection. Same structural. Now, let's select all the structural sheets and views and set them inside this new collection. You can do it from here. Now, another one. This one would be mechanical. You know what? Let's create the next one here, which would be electrical. Now, let's set all of the electrical sheets inside their collection. Do the same for the mechanical ones. And yeah, now we have some sheet collections. Apply. Yeah, done. Let me enter the sheet segment. If I try selecting any of these, here in the properties, we would only see the collection. Now let's say we want to specify some parameters for the entire architectural collection. In the new version, we can go to Manage tab, then Project Parameters, click on New, and then create the parameter that we want. As for the name, give me is plot. For the group, I'm going to go with sheet collection here. And the data type would be yes or no. And it would be an identity parameter. Right, now click on OK. I don't want this to be activated by default. Okay, and now it would be applied on the entire architectural collection. If I select any of these sheets, you would see this parameter. But it is read-only, guys, see? And well, whether we want to apply this parameter or not would be controlled from here. And well, basically, as I said, this is how we can repeat applying the same parameter on different sheets. Now, let's say, for example, we don't want to apply this on these sheets. Also, for these sheets. Now, let's see. Here it is activated, but in this sheet, it is deactivated. Now, guys, if we try transferring a sheet from one collection to another, like this, for example, its parameter would automatically be changed to the one that we specified for that new collection. See, if I change the spec, again, the parameter would change. And guys, the parameter could actually be anything. For example, say this new parameter is called approve. Approved by. Again, sheet collection here. This time for the type, give me text. And again, identity. All right, now let's collapse all of these. Now for the architectural collection, I'm going to set the approved by on test 1. And for This one, test 2. This could be basically anything, guys. This could be a person's name or a company, anything. All right. Apply. Okay, now let's see what we got here. There's test 3, test 2, and if I transfer the sheets again, into our electrical collection, we'll have test 2, and if I set it back, we'll have test 3 again. So as you can see, guys, such modifications would automatically and also dynamically, you can say, be applied on our collections, which is quite useful in documentation processes. As for another point, guys, sometimes we might be applying a category, setting a category for both sheet collections and the sheets themselves. Let me show you what I mean here from project parameters again. Oh, by the way, guys, here we are also able to work with shared parameters. Anyway, let me create this parameter. I'm going to call it test A, maybe. Now here, I'm going to select both sheets and sheet collections. It'll be an instance parameter, data type on text, and identity. You know what, let me go with general. Now guys, this parameter would be used in both sheets and sheet collections. See? Now, if we, for example, try changing this from here, as an example, I'll go with test Revit 2026. Now, the parameter would only be used as a reference. It won't be applied on these. And because it's an instance parameter, we can modify it and change it completely separately. This is not a read-only parameter anymore. We can change it. But again, this one here is only a reference. We can specify a description for it. But for the sheets, we can specify completely separate values. So again, a reference or a description for the sheet collections, but for the sheets, a completely unique value. And now, if I go back here again, test A, I'm going to uncheck this or deactivate this. All right, let's see what we're going to get. As a result of this, guys, basically, our parameter would become, or it would be converted into a read-only parameter once more. Interestingly enough, guys, all these parameters could be used in schedules as well. For example, the parameters that we currently have here are approved by, is plot, and test A. Now, I'm going to go ahead and select sheet list here. Then here I'm going to search for sheet collection. Then let's find the first parameter, approved by, and also test A. So I'm going to add them here and hit OK. Oh, we actually had another one, is plot. Let me add this one also. Now I'm going to hit OK. And well, as you can see, they would be added here and we can manage them however we want. And remember, guys, again, the parameters that are being applied on our sheet collections are read-only. They can't be changed, but the ones that are being applied on our sheets themselves, well, they are editable. So yeah, basically, we can easily sort these out, manage them, and also utilize them based on what we need in our projects. Like, I'm separating these based on their disciplines. All right, let me go back now, and basically that would be all regarding custom parameters and schedules for sheets and sheet collections. Guys, in this version of the software, we are able to see and check 3 sheet-related parameters in our schedules, talking about their height, their scale, and their width. Let me try to elaborate on this. I'm going to go ahead and select sheet list one more time. Now let's try adding some parameters to a sheet here, such as sheet number and sheet name. Give me scale as well, which is actually a new feature. In previous versions, we should have created this separately or actually using Dynamo even. All right. Also, I'm going to add sheet width and sheet height here. Sorry. Now, obviously, guys, using these parameters, we can get more info regarding our sheets. For example, their dimensions, what kind of content they could contain, or even the required settings. Okay? All right. Now, I'm going to enter my sheet list properties for a second. And from appearance, I'm going to try modifying the text a bit. Let's make it more visible. Yeah, this is better. Now, as you can see, we have the scale column here and also width and height. Also, guys, as for another feature or ability, we are able to add some title block related parameters to our schedules as well. As an example, I'm going to go ahead and add a family and type, like title block family and type, or maybe scale override. Yeah, we can add this parameter as well. I guess that would be enough, actually. Their values, guys, could be in control from here. Again, we can see what kind of scale override we got here, as well as the family and type. And as I said, we are able to change these families, for example. Let me go back to this file. Let's try creating a schedule here. Select sheet list. Give me number again. Name. Scale. Width and height. And for the title, give me scale override. And also family and type. I'm going to move these two up. This one should be first. I guess we're done. Let's check this. Let's set these two next to each other. Close this one down. Cancel. Leave this open. Close. And set these two next to each other, as I said. Now, for example, let's try changing the title from here. As an example, let's see. What's the number? 102. Alright, let me just do something to find these sheets more easily. I'm going to go back here and set the sort by on sheet number. Or we can use filters. Anyway, there it is. We got A102, and as I said, we can try changing the title from here. Well, this whole thing could extremely be helpful, guys. Alright, moving on, guys. We have another new feature, and by default it is actually read only. Let me show it to you. If I select title block in the properties tab, we'll see primary title block. You know, this parameter somehow prioritizes the title blocks. Now, as I said, by default this is a read only parameter, and well, currently it is also deactivated. It would work when a single title block contains several more. Like, for example, let's say we've created several schedules as title blocks and we added them into a single sheet. You know what? Let me demonstrate on this. Let me give you a further elaboration. I'm going to remove this current sheet list and instead create a new one. So, once again, up here, select sheet list. For the parameters, guys, basically I'm going to add the same parameters as before. Okay. You know what? Not even scale. Yeah, that'll do. We got the schedule, guys. Let me go back here. I can set these next to each other. And I guess we can close this file down. We don't really need it for now. Okay, now press WT and set these two views next to each other. Then the sheet number here is 102. What I'm going to do here again would be entering sheet list properties. Open up filters and set this on number. And I'm going to filter 102 here, guys. Next up, guys, from view, I'm going to try adding another title block. For example, maybe this. You know what? Let's go with another one. Maybe this. Okay, so this is 102, and the priorities for this one, if I select this, the item would become activated, and if I check the box, I'll get the info regarding this title block. Alright, and well, this actually works in reverse. Alright guys, this is actually quite common. I mean, in our projects, based on what we need, we might set several title blocks inside a single sheet. And now, using this parameter, we can specify which one we exactly want to see in our sheet list. Well, in my opinion, this is quite interesting. Alright everyone, moving on. Up here we have Carbon Insights. In previous versions, we actually had this as a plugin. I mean, more precisely, right until the second upgrade of Revit 2025. Anyway, basically now we have this as a default Revit item. It's not a plugin anymore. And well, obviously in this version, we don't really need to download or install anything. We have an easy access to it from up here. Just click on the item. And we can start using the item in some specific processes such as energy analysis, or for example, calculating the amount of utilized carbon in some designs, and even for decision making in some particular architectural and structural projects and processes. So I'm going to hit OK and wait for the view analysis to be displayed. Wait for it. Oh, I actually need to select view analysis here. After that, a web tab would appear here, and we just need to wait for the process to be over. Okay, and I didn't really apply any specific modifications. I just wanted to show you what we're going to get. See, we'll have our 3D model here, and and wait for the process to be done completely. And by the way, guys, here on the right, we have a tab, and we can, for example, specify a lifespan for our building. I want this to go through faster, so I'm just going to set this on 1 year. All right, we're done here, guys. As you can see, we have a carbonated view on our model. We also have access to all the data and information here. And as you can see, we got these columns specifying some parameters and values. For example, this one specifies the exact amount of carbon during both construction and exploitation. And again, guys, the time range that I specified for this whole thing was 1 year. Okay. The next column here specifies the amount of embodied carbon, guys. In other words, this one represents the amount of produced carbon in different areas, different parts of a project. For example, during steel production or concrete, windows, doors, basically any other element or material. Okay? Then in the next column, we'll have operational carbon, the amount of released or produced carbon dioxide when a project is operating. Like, for example, during energy consumption. Yeah, here we'll get the exact amount. And lastly, in the last column, we'll have energy consumption intensity in a year per cubic meters. And well, a small number here, guys, means that the project, in fact, is operating or functioning quite well. And again, guys, don't mind these numbers here because I didn't specify any settings. But overall, guys, using these settings, these parameters and items, you can check and analyze the amount of carbon in your projects. By the way, guys, by using this only one time, this web page, this website would be saved somehow up here, and you can just click on the item and enter this page all over again. Oh, and obviously, guys, you need to be online if you want to work with this. Let me close this down. And guys, you can use delete energy model here to, well, remove the energy model that you have. Overall, guys, now we have these two as default items in Revit, and we don't need any further plugins or additional softwares. And this version of the software, guys, in order to have better and easier access to some of the tools and also to somehow modernize or enhance some of the tools and items, some of the user interfaces are either changed or relocated. As an example of this, we can mention tag-on placement. When we select an element or item like doors or windows or basically any kind of element that by default has a tag, up here we can find tag-on placement. If we select this, we'll get nothing in the option bar. Instead, all of its items and features and sub-items are relocated to Rebar. Now we got sub-items such as orientation. Let's say, for example, we want to set a door here. And as I said, we can control the orientation, horizontal, vertical, based on the model. We can specify leaders. All right, what else? Also, we can add new tags. We can specify or define new tags here. We can actually load new tags here. I guess I actually have some tags for the doors. Let me see. Yeah, we can select the tag that we want here. And I'm going to try setting this tag somewhere around this area, maybe. Now remember, guys, this feature works on some of the elements such as doors, windows, and some components, but not all of them. For example, if I try working with columns, as you can see, tag emplacement will still be located in the option bar. I guess in the next upgrade, all of these would be moved to Rebound. Now, if we were working within a mechanical discipline, for example, for the docks, again, we have the item up here, or the piping, same. And, well, actually, this is the exact same case for the electrical. We only have this problem in the structural discipline. More precisely for the structural elements, we still have these items in the option bar. Alright, so this was the change that we have in tag emplacement. Next up, we have tag by category. Guys, if we select tag by category, we'll see that all of its sub-items are set in the ribbon. Sub-items such as leader, whether we want the leader or not, whether we want it to be attached or not, for example, attached to the end. Yeah, basically we can apply such modifications based on what we need. Yeah, basically we can easily work with all of these items from our rebound. Alright guys, that would be all regarding tag emplacement and tag by category. Next up, we can talk about some modifying items, such as move, copy, rotate, mirror, array, even label. All of these items are relocated. More precisely, they're also moved to rebound. To give you an example, I'm going to try setting a component somewhere like here. If I try moving this, I'll get nothing in the option bar. Instead, we have some separate items up here, for example, constraint, which works exactly the same as F8 in AutoCAD. There's a separate item with its own specific icon. Also, we got this join here. If I select this and press Control, this would be disabled. Instead, multiple would be activated. We talked about all of these in our Revit tutorial completely. Let me just try moving this a bit. Yeah, that is all. Basically, move has been relocated to rebound. The same goes for copy, or basically other modifying items such as rotate, which is actually one of the most interesting items and features that we have in this version of our software. Let me set this here. Previously, the midpoint of this bounding box automatically would have been selected as the rotation center point, but now we can use this placing item to specify the center point basically wherever we want. For example, I'm going to select this point as the rotation nexus. So basically my point here is that there's no more default center points here. In Revit 2026, we can use this placing item to specify any point that we want as our center point or rotation axis. And guys, as for the rest of the sub items here, you are quite familiar with them. Like we have copy, disjoint, and angle. The only difference is that they actually have their own specific icon and they are set in ribbon, which I think it is quite better. Yeah, that is all. Let's go back, Control Z. The next modifying item that we can talk about here is mirror. The only sub-item for mirror was copy, and now we have it in our rebound up here. Well, I don't think I need to explain how it works. Again, mirror draw axis works exactly the same as before. Guys, next up we can talk about scale a little bit. It actually went through some changes in the 25th version of the software. It had two sub-items in the option bar, graphical and numerical, and now we can find both of these sub-items up here in the rebound, and they have their own specific icons. You can see them as completely separate items. Like for example, I'm going to use graphical up to this point, and then I'm going to use numerical for the next half. What other modifying items we got? Oh, array, guys. We have array. Just like other modifying items, Now in this version, array has a different structure to it. Let me try setting a couple of items and elements here to show you what we can do with this modifying item. Let's set these two views next to each other. I'm going to select align. And by the way, regarding align, guys, it actually got moved to rebound before, in previous versions. So no problem there. We were talking about array though. As you can see, we have no sub items in the option bar. All of them are set here in the rebound. And well, honestly, this is more modern. This is more professional. There's nothing new here though. Like we have linear, we have radial, like I'm going to select radial here. And also just like what we had in rotate here, we also have this placing item that we can use. Nothing is predefined by default. All right, I'm going to select the center point. Then again, we have some familiar options. Move to second, move to last. I'm going to go last. For example, let's say up to this point. All right. Another item that has been moved to rebound is this one, append to end. Let's move past this for now. I'm going to set the angle on 360 and then 80. Okay, now maybe let's work on an example for linear as well. I'm going to set the length on 3 meters. And for the width, give me 1400 maybe. Right, now let's try a linear array. Then again, between these two options, second and last, I'm going to go with last. Or, you know what? Actually, let's go with second this time. Up to this point, say we want like 5 of these. Now let me just move these a little bit. All right, now select the whole thing. And let's use mirror based on this line. Done. Okay. We also have array labeling in rebound, guys. This is most useful when you are working on families, like when you're working in a specific family template. Let me try giving you an example on this chair maybe. And maybe also another template, guys. I'm going to open up furniture. I'm going to close down these extra views. After that, load this here. Guys, basically when we try using array in family templates, you know what, let me actually show you. Say, for example, 4. In family templates, we would be able to specify parameters. And again, previously the sub-items that we had for the labels were set in the option bar. Now we have them in rebound though. And, for example, we can try creating the parameter directly from up here. We can even control the type of our parameters, like we have instance and type. We didn't have such options before, like we only had this instance checkbox, if you remember. Now, though, we have 2 different options, 2 different items for these 2 different types of parameters, and honestly, this is quite more professional. And also, guys, graphically speaking, everything is more enhanced now. Let's see what we can do with edit group, guys. I'm going to select this. Again, as you can see, we have nothing in the option bar for the family label. Everything is set in the rebound. You know what? Let me actually create a parameter here. I'm trying to think of a random name. Yeah, let's go with this. It'll be an instance. Again, we can control the type from up here. Alright, I guess we're done with our edit group, so finish. Now we can load this into our project and start using it based on what we need. See, here we have other families that we can work with. And we can also control the number. And we didn't specify the distance, that's why they are not being set here correctly. So basically, guys, nothing new has been added to our user interface, only its items has been relocated to make this whole thing more user-friendly. That is all. Also, guys, if we enter a conceptual mass template or basically workspace, here some of the items are also moved from the option bar to rebound. As an example, show host. Or, well, let me select create form here for a second. The item that has been moved from the option bar to rebound would be labeling. And as for another item that has been moved to rebound, for better access, we can mention color palettes, guys. As an example, I'm going to go back to 3D here and select this wall. Then here we can open up colors. Now, we got color book here. Guys, we actually had this before, but now there's a new feature. We are able to scroll. Yeah, we didn't have this ability in previous versions. Now, guys, these changes, although small, they could increase your accuracy, your speed, and overall the quality of your works. Like, for example, before the scrolling thing in previous versions, this whole thing would have been quite time-consuming. Now, it would take us like a few seconds. Alright, let's go back. Alright, guys, because we're discussing user interfaces, let's actually talk about structure a little bit as well. Like, let's mention a few points regarding it. I'm going to enter this template, first level, and try using structural wall, for example. Hide on second level. Try setting a wall here. Now select, set this on 1 meter. Now let's say we want to use, for example, beam system, non-planar, and as you can see, wall's defined slope has been moved to rebound. And well, obviously now we can control the slopes that we have in this part of our model quite more easily. We can make them flat or we can apply the slope, right? These items are quite interesting, by the way, guys, and now that they are moved to rebound, they would actually attract our attention more. Alright, guys, the next enhancement would be a graphical enhancement that we have in additional settings for this list. Previously, we had some dividers, some separator lines set in between all of these items in the list, and as a result, the list was quite crowded. Now, this menu is more consistent. This is more modern, you can say. Alright, the next feature that we can discuss here would be regarding renaming, guys. Oh, actually, it's tab. In this feature, in this version of the software, we would be able to resize the renaming tab. As you can see, this way, we would be able to specify longer names quite more easily and without any problems. Right, let me close these down and go back to one of these views. Maybe here. Oh, you know what, let's actually work on this plan. I'm going to use grid to set an axis here. This is just an example. I'm not trying to work completely accurately. Right, let's open up visibility and graphics. Enter annotate. And here I'm going to try activating only grids. In Revit software, from View tab, we can find an item called Framing Elevation. This could be attached to our axis. And by the way, it is another item that has been moved from the option bar to rebound. If it was activated, we should click on the axis to specify or set the elevation, and if it was disabled, we can basically and freely set the elevation wherever we want. Oh, I actually need to activate elevation from the visibility and graphics. Right? As you can see, we have one here. So again, guys, previously we had this item, attached to grid as a checkbox in the option bar. Now we have it up here in the rebound as a completely separate item. Right, now let me try opening one of these legends. Then from annotate, I'm going to select legends. The thing is, guys, all the options and sub-items that we have here were previously set in the option bar, which was actually pretty bad. The location wasn't convenient at all. But now we got all of them in the rebound, which would help us work more professionally, more accurately. We can also search for anything that we want here. We can also work with different views, front, back, sections, and so on. We are able to specify the wall's length like 1800. Right, let me set this here. And then maybe another type of door this time. Let's see what we have here. Maybe this one. For the length, I'm going to go with 2 meters. I mean, the wall's length, not the door, guys. And as for the view, I'm going to go with front. And I'm going to add this here. Now select this one, drag it up, and change it from here. Like this, for example. Yeah, so basically the same rule is applied on the legends and their sub-items. Okay? Moving on. Guys, some of the wall-related options, properties, and basically functionalities are changed and relocated as well. To give you an example, I'm going to move this edge upwards, like I'm going to set it in 5 meters to create some sort of a slope like this. Now guys, previously we had a couple of items called attach and detach. We have them here as well, but there's a little bit of difference. For example, for attach, we actually had 2 sub-items called attach top and attach base. Now, in this version, we can find these 2 sub-items up here. To explain more, guys, previously, in the previous versions, these 2 options were actually set in the option bar. Like, we had attach top and attach base, or attach bottom, I think. But now we got these 2 items up here in the ribbon as completely separate items, and we can use them basically whenever we need it. And the same goes for detach, guys. We have detach top or base and detach all. If we go with top or base, we can obviously specify the part that we want to detach. And if we wanted to detach everything simultaneously, we can go with detach all. So yeah, we got such graphical enhancement or change for these items as well. I guess we have some changes in wall join as well. For example, let's see what we got here. I'm going to select this wall, create similar, and try setting another wall here. An L-shaped form maybe, quite randomly. Now, exactly like the rest of the items that we talked about so far, the sub-items that we have for the wall join were set in the option bar previously, but now we can find all of them in the rebound. Now, we can, for example, select this corner here, then up here select a joining condition, and then we can select one of these structural designs that we have for the joints. And if we didn't want the walls to be joined, we can just easily use this item to disjoin everything. And well, obviously we are able to join everything once again using this one. Yeah, so all the sub-items are set in the rebound now, and we can easily use them. Let me join these. Next up, we can talk about wall sweeps, guys. Let me go to the 3D view and click on wall sweep up here. After clicking on wall sweep, if we go ahead and select modify returns up here, again, we'll find no sub-items for this in the option bar. Instead, all of them are moved inside the rebound, using which we can, for example, specify a cut or a specific kind of angle, or we can even stretch this out on a specific course. All right? And guys, the same goes for wall reveal. There's no sub-item in the option bar if we click on modify returns. Okay? All right, let's see what else. We have, what other changes and modifications we have here. Let me find a wall here with a sweep. I'm going to hide this one actually. Or basically, I'm going to try isolating this wall here. This wall has a sweep down here, as you can see, a cornice. Thing is, here we also have the sub-items set in the ribbon, not the option bar. So we have the same thing for the sweeps that are already set on the walls. Alright everyone, in this version of Revit software, we would be able to replace all the Twinmotion's assets with the categories and families that we have in Revit. Guys, in the newest versions of Revit, from the View tab, then Twinmotion, we would be able to find Substitution Settings. We can click on this item, then click on Enable or hit Enable. And then, just like this, a new parameter would be added to all of the categories that we are working with, called Twinmotion Substitution. If we open this up, we would see many different Twinmotion assets that we can substitute with our categories. To give you an example, let's see what we have in doorways. Rotate. Now let's try selecting one of these doors for substitution. Maybe this one. Let me see. Oh, this was actually a window, sorry. So I'm going to hit clear. This time select the door. Again, let's go back to our Twinmotion assets. And the same path again. Select the asset. Now let's try setting a section box here. Right, now let's select this interior door. Now let's try selecting another asset for substitution. Okay. Right, now let's try another object, maybe this bed. Back to Twinmotion assets. Search for bed. Now give me this one. Or maybe this, actually. Now back here, edit group. Select this. And select this asset. Okay, finish. Now let's select this table. See what we got for table. Okay, seems like they got no tables here. We need to find them. Maybe another path, like what we have in office, guys. Let's see what we have in office. Oh, here we go, table. We have both single tables and tables with chairs. We can basically select whichever we want to. I'm actually thinking of... yeah, let me cancel this. I'm going to do something else, guys. I'm going to go back here and remove the chairs that I have set all around this table. And then I'm going to replace this or substitute this with one of these tables with chairs. Let's see what we got. Give me this one. All right. So basically, guys, we would be able to do this for all the elements, all the categories that we have. And it doesn't matter which discipline we are working with. It could be mechanical, electrical, structural, anything. All right. After we're done, we can click on Open in Twinmotion. And well, all of these categories would be replaced, would be substituted. The point here is, in the previous versions, only the architectural elements and items would have been supported, but now all the disciplines are being supported. And also, guys, remember, Revit 2026 is in correspondence with Twinmotion 2025. Oh, and Enable substitution should definitely be activated. Now, let's see what we're going to have. So you can see all the elements are changed. And also, guys, if you had a problem with the dimensions and size, you can modify them here. Like, I'm going to select the door. Let's see what we are working with here. The height is 2400 and the width 1400. Right, now back to Twinmotions. I'm going to set the width on 1400 and height 2400. Let me try to move this a little bit. Done. Give me 2200. Let's do the same for this door. Yeah, as you can see, guys, we are easily able to apply such modifications. This is very interesting and useful. We also had a bed, I guess. Yeah, let me get inside. There we go. The exact same thing that we selected, and same for the chairs. Guys, basically for architectures, this is a very useful feature, right? Guys, the next feature is extremely useful and essential in documentation. We're going to talk about view-to-sheet positioning and automate placements. Not only it's an important feature, guys, it's also quite interesting. What I'm going to do here, guys, would be using crop region, basically, to specify a boundary or region all around our plan like this. Okay? So it will be the boundary that we're going to use for our view. A view that we're going to set in the sheet later on. Now, next up, I'm going to get a duplicate, guys, with detailing. And in this one, I'm going to go ahead and from visibility and graphics, deactivate all the annotative elements. And also I'm going to do the same for all the rooms. I don't want to see any rooms here. Just want to see the plan, the walls. Let's call this level 1 dash plan. Also, I'm going to rename this one to level 1 dash room. No. Okay, we have these two plans. Now, let's open up one of these sheets, guys. For example, floor plan. I'm going to delete this one. Then I'm going to select and drag this plan and set it inside this sheet. Let me increase the scale to 1/50th, enlarging this a bit. After that, let's open up another sheet. And then set the next plan, the room 1, with the same scale 1/50th inside this sheet. Drag it here. Alright, now let's close all of these and set these two sheets next to each other. Guys, the features that we're about to discuss are extremely important and fascinating even. Alright guys, let's begin. In this version of the software, when we select a view inside the sheet, up here we would see some items and sub-items. The panel itself is called Positioning and View. It contains items such as Save Position, Edit Position, and Manage Position. Let's say we want to set the both views, guys, in both sheets in the exact same location. For doing so, I'm going to select this, for example, set the location that we want, and then we can save this location or position. By the way, guys, when we are working with sheets, we can do a right-click on them. And then here we would find an item called Reset Title Block Position. Basically, guys, sometimes when we are working with title blocks, they might get displaced, and we should try to set them in their own specific base point. This is where we can use this item. Reset Title Block Position. Guys, it is actually quite important to use this item, to use this option, because now in this version of the software, we have X, Y, and Z coordinates, which we can use to specify the exact base point that we want. By the way, guys, in the newest versions of Revit, we have an item or parameter here called View Anchor. We have the same thing up here, and by default, this is set on View Origin for all the views. Now, you might be asking, how exactly does the software know where the origin point is? This View Origin. Well, View Origin is the same as your project's internal origin, guys. Alright, let me elaborate on this. When we enter any views, guys, and then open up visibility and graphics, let me find site. Then in here, we would find internal origin, and it's not changeable. And wherever this point was located, it would be your view origin. Now, let me show you another view, another plan. Again, I'm going to activate internal origin here. Alright. Now, back to our sheet. Alright, what I'm going to do here would be selecting this. We got all three, and it is exactly set in the base point. Now, it is set a bit downwards here, though, because of the structure of the family, because of the structure of our sheet. Now, I can select this, guys, and based on the origin point that we have here, we can, for example, set this on center, Then, down here, I'm going to set this on 0 and 0. And then, I'm going to set this on top left. And again, 0 and 0. Which would be here, somewhere around here. Now, bottom left. Again, 0. And bottom right. And basically, guys, wherever we want, we can also specify some particular values here. Like, I'm going to go with top left. Then, I'm going to set this on 500. Okay. Now, 100. How about 600? Again, 550 downwards. Basically, somehow I'm trying to locate this plan here manually. After we're done, we can save this position. Let's call it floor plan. All right, now for the next sheet. I'm going to select this view, and then up here, select floor plan. And our new view would be set in the same position as our last one. Guys, this feature is extremely useful when you are working on a large-scaled project, when you have many different views, details, and sheets, and you want to manage them, manage all of them. And by the way, guys, this isn't fixed up. I mean, after specifying a position or location, you would always be able to edit them. I mean, we have edit position up here. When we click on it, first off, you would see this crop view boundary, guys. That's why we should actually specify our crop view before starting to work on the sheets. Now, we can turn this off, but I'm not going to do this because I want to show you what exactly is going on here. All right, so I'm going to select this and up here, click on Edit Position, and immediately I'll get these vertices in the corners. And the active point is being displayed here through a yellow color, as you can see. Let's change this to top right. Again, top left. Also, guys, I can select this view and move it around like this manually. And after saving this new location, this would actually be applied on all the sheets that we have used this specific location. For example, let me try applying some modifications here. I'm going to try, basically I'm trying to set this exactly inside the sheet. Now, right-click, deactive, and move this here now. Okay. Guys, honestly, in my opinion, this is one of the best features that we have in Revit 2026. All right? Next up, guys, we can talk about some replaced items. I mean, basically, in previous versions, we had some old items, and now they are replaced with some new ones. For example, previously, instead of all of these items, we actually had subview, if you remember. Also, we had another parameter called viewport position, but now instead of that, we have view anchor. Okay, let me see what else we can talk about here. As I said, by default, this would always be set on view origin unless you change it yourselves. And by the way, guys, when you are trying to edit the position, basically when you are using the edit position item, you can control the crop view that you have based on these vertices. All right. Now, let me go back to, let me actually enter another sheet. All right, guys, a few minutes ago, I said that when the title blocks are displaced, we can use reset title block position to set them back in their base point, and we can somehow do the same for the sheets in the project browser. So if I do a right click, we would see the same item. And we can do this for all of them, for some of them, or basically just one of them. Guys, using these items, you can make sure that the sheets that you need are being created as accurately as possible. Alright guys, let's talk about another relocation that we have in Revit 2026, this time regarding some dimension-related items and features. As an example, for a line. Previously, we had some sub-items for this in the option bar, but now they are all added into our rebound. And for example, up here we have prefer and also pick. Guys, we can easily use this based on what we need. We have a better access to them right now, and honestly, this is quite more professional. I'm going to select interval. Option would be activated. And yeah, as you can see, I have a very good access to everything here. Let me try this again. I'm going to try setting a total dimension here. I can do the same for all of these walls. Same based on width. Set the dimensions for the openings. Like this. We got nothing special for linear. For angular, prefer has been added to rebound again. And all of these items are the same. Let's talk about spot elevation. Its sub-items are removed from option bar and they are added into rebound, and we can find them in these two panels. In graphics, we have leader and shoulder, and in constraint, we can control the location of these spot elevations. Like, for example, I'm going to select top and bottom. Leader is activated. Let me select a type. Then after that, we can set or add a spot elevation here somewhere. If we deactivate the leader, the shoulder would become deactivated as well, and we can just do a double click to add these in our plan. We can go with actual. Again, we have nothing special in spot coordinates, only leader. You can use this to, for example, specify the coordinates of our corners. And then, lastly, we can control and manage our slopes using spot slopes. And again, its sub-items are set in rebound. For example, I'm going to select this, add points, give me -40. And then I'm going to select this point. Now open up type properties, then entering edit assembly. As I said, we can set these outside the core. And also I'm going to activate variable. Alright, now I can specify my slope through this item. For example, like this. Also, guys, if we enter one of these views or sections, such as this one, and then select spot slope here, we'll find another item called slope representation. You can set this on either arrow or triangle. These are basically some representative symbols, guys. See, one of them is triangular, the other one is an arrow shape. And this item basically works in views and sections. In plan, it would be deactivated. Alright, I guess that would be all. What else we can talk about here? After setting the dimensions, for example, we can select them again, and up here we'll find this item called placement dimensions. And well, we can use this one as well. When it comes to using, creating families, guys, specifying dimensions and their specific parameters is an essential aspect. Now, the thing is, guys, some of these parameters might be quite complex, and also the dimensions might even be related to each other. Or it's better to say they might depend on each other. Now, the thing is, guys, in previous versions, we weren't able to detect these relations quite easily. We would have been just informed about them, as in a warning saying that the two dimensions are related and we should remove one of them, or specifying a formula for them. In this version, though, we have an item that we can use for detecting such relations called show related dimensions. If I click on this, for example, down here, we'll see that these two dimensions are working kind of the same, like they are both related to width. Now, let's test another one. Okay, this one doesn't have any related dimensions. How about this one? Yeah, it is related to these two. Guys, this item is extremely useful when you want to finalize your process in which you are setting the dimensions, you're specifying the dimensions for your projects. Not only that, we can use this interesting item for checking and rechecking our project. You can somehow say that we can use this to for debugging process. This is actually a term that we use in programming. Yeah, basically we can use this to find all the related dimensions and parameters and modify them if needs be. Alright guys, that is all regarding this interesting item. Let us move on to our next point now. Guys, let's talk about the features that we have in structural discipline. The first feature that we can talk about here would be steel plate default material. To start our discussion, I'm going to go ahead and open up a template, a structural template. Remember guys, we're actually going to get different materials based on our template being set on metric or imperial. Right now it is set on metric. You know what, let me actually open up an imperial template here as well. For example, this one. Right, now, as always, I'm going to try setting both of the views next to each other. I'm going to minimize this because I don't really need this for now. Okay, this one is the metric template. And here we got the imperial one. Now for the metric first, guys. Entering the first level. From structure, I'm going to select columns. Based on height up to the second level. I'm going to try setting these columns here. I don't want the tags. Now guys, in the new version, if we go ahead in metric template, if we go ahead and use some specific connections, or you know what, basically just plates. If we go ahead and use plates, again, in a metric template, this material would automatically be used. A steel S235. And in an imperial template, we'll be getting steel ASTM A36. For example, I'm going to add this here. And then select a connection. Right, let me set this on fine for better view. Now, if I press tab and select this, as you can see, the metric material is being used here. In previous versions, guys, the material that was being used here wasn't really great. And, well, we can always change this material, guys. There's no limit. Alright, as another example, I'm going to select plate. And select this face as my plane. And then try setting this plate here. Alright. Finish. Again, up here we'll see the metric material. Alright, now let's try the imperial one, guys. Again, I'm going to start by adding a couple of columns. And then I'm going to enter the 3D view. Okay, let me hide the floor. Now, once again, let's select the space plate. Alright. And create or specify the connection. Again, set this on fine. Now guys, this is an imperial template, and as I said, in this case, the material that we're going to get would be this one, steel ASTM A36. Yeah, basically we have such predefined modifications. Now, guys, let's say we have worked on a project using previous versions of Revit, and now we want to open that project up in the 26th version. What do you think is going to happen? Okay, before that, let me just close down the imperial template. Guys, in the previous versions, the default materials that we had for the place was metal stud layer. If we didn't change that, or if we change another material to this one, your file or your project would easily be opened up in the new version of the software without any problems, okay? However, let's say we didn't do that. We actually changed that default material. And now we want to we are trying to open the file on the new version. Well, again, we won't be facing any problems. I mean, the modified material would also be transferred here. Now guys, let's say we need a base plate connection, and for setting it, we're using the default element that we have in the software. If you didn't apply any specific modification to its material, guys, Later on, based on the type of the template, based on the template being either metric or imperial, one of these two materials would be set for it. Remember, this isn't a case for these types of plates, guys. Alright? And again, guys, modified plates won't change. They won't be replaced. They would just be transferred as just that, as modified plates. And yeah, guys, that would basically be all regarding steel plates, default materials. Alright, guys, now we can talk about custom connections. Finally, in this version, we have something interesting and useful for them. Let's say we are working in a structural discipline. Alright, let me start with setting a section here. Guys, previously when we were using custom connections, in previous versions, by the way, these are custom connections. I have used them here. When we were using them, basically we had no modifying items that we could have used on them. But now we have edit boundary, we can modify the connections. To be honest, guys, I'm really happy that we have something like this now, because in previous versions, if we were to use a connection in another area with even a slightest change to it, we should have created a new one, a completely new one. Now, though, we can just select a connection, start modifying it, and then use it somewhere else. All of these custom connections that I've created here are modifiable. As an example, I'm going to select this and click on Edit. As for one thing, each of these bolts here are completely and separately editable, and also we have Edit Pattern. We can use this to edit our sketch. We can select and modify our plate itself. And we can work on its sketch or its dimension and size. Also, the same goes for this plate here. And basically, any element that we have. Any element that we have in this connection. All right, I'm going to finish this. Actually, cancel because I didn't apply anything. Guys, for working on these corners, I actually use corner cuts that we can find in our steel tab. But the thing is, when we use this item and we try modifying it afterwards, this would be counted as a sketch. Don't get me wrong though, we are still able to work on this as a corner cut, like we have these parameters that we can work with here. But anyway, when we select it in our viewport and try modifying it, it'll be counted as a sketch. So yeah, guys, basically anything that we have in this connection, such as bolts, holes, anchors, plates, anything basically that we could use here separately could easily be modified as well. And by the way, guys, for doing so, we should be entering this editing mode. And after doing so, we can basically apply any modifications that we want on any of these elements separately. Alright, what else? Okay, take a look at this connection, guys. Let's say, for example, we want to separate this face from our connection. In previous versions, guys, if you were to use remove, as you can see, we have a removing item up here. If you were to use remove for doing this, for somehow subtracting a face out of a connection, the face would have been removed from the project completely. Now, though, if I do this and hit finish, it would be removed from the connection, but not from the model, not from the project. Now, by the way, this process might actually take a while because we have many connections. I guess we have like 122 of them, so we just need to wait for the process to be done. Anyway, guys, so in this version, in Revit 2026, guys, when we do this, when we try separating an element or a face, for example, from a connection, not only it won't be removed from the model, but also it would be it could be used as a completely separate element. And honestly, guys, having this ability, this feature was quite necessary. Sometimes we might need to do this, like, assume that we have a connection like this, and as a required modification, we need to separate an element from it, okay? Let's say, for example, you need that element for another process. Now you can use this technique. All right, Control Z, let's go back. Overall, guys, in conclusion, at this point, we are able to use Edit Custom Connection for applying specific modifications such as movements, adding elements, removing them, resizing, and so on. Also, we said that when we remove an element from a connection, they won't be removed from our projects. What else? We said that for modifying the settings, we need to enter this editing mode. Then we also have some further settings and modifying items that we can go through for our elements, such as the thickness, the types, and other items. Sorry. What else? Also, if we select, for example, these bolts here, we would see some modifying items in the properties tab for them. Yeah, we can use these items here as well. For example, we can change the types of our holes. And lastly, guys, your modifications would be limited to your connections only. As a result of this, you'd work more accurately. Alright, guys. In this version of the software, for some of the particular steel-related families, we have some specific parameters that we can work with. Parameters such as weight and also paint area. Well, obviously, these are some important calculative items that we have here. Now, guys, we also have the exact weight parameter here, which is different from the weight parameter, and it would actually be specified and calculated differently from weight as well. Its formula is volume times material density. Now, remember, guys, this is a read-only parameter, and the reason that currently it says 0 is the fact that we did not specify any physical value for it in the materials tab just yet. Yeah, this is the case actually. Yeah, we need a physical value here. I'm going to search for ST37. Then here from physical, I'm going to select and add this. Okay, now let's go back and check this again. As you can see, this is not 0 anymore. And guys, by specifying more accurate physical values, you'll get more accurate weight here. Right, now for the next one, I'm actually going to try to use the same thing. The same physical value. I'm going to copy this. You can just go ahead and enter material browser. And from physical, just paste this here. Select and add. And done. Now, the parameters are calculated here. And we have the paint area here as well, guys. Now, this parameter, more precisely, paint area would be calculated through multiplying the perimeter by the cut length. Oh, and by the way, by cut length, we actually mean the effective remaining length here, okay? Now, guys, the elements that have this sort of form to them, like this box form, the paint area would be calculated only for the exterior parts. Well, this is the case for now. Maybe we'll get the interior parts in the future upgrades. For now, though, for the elements such as this box, we just need to stick with the exterior parts. Alright, moving on. Guys, we said that the paint area would be calculated through multiplying the perimeter by the cut length. Now, let's say we're working with a structural element such as a column or a beam. As you can see, we'll get the weight, but not the paint area. So, what's up with that? To be honest, currently we actually have a problem in Revit 2026. Like, the thing is, the software somehow says that if you want me to calculate parameters such as the exact weight and paint area, here in families, section shape should definitely be set or applied on one of these default values. Now, again, for the 1000th time, guys, paint area would be calculated through multiplying perimeter by the cut length. The thing is, the software won't really recognize this parameter by default. We need to specify it manually ourselves. Funny thing is, if we set this on not defined, guys, this problem would also be solved. You know, this is somehow a problem, but it also is a loophole, in fact. I mean, it should work based on the section shape. But anyway, now as you can see, both of these parameters are calculated. Now guys, you shouldn't really mind this whole thing. I mean, I promise you this problem would be solved in future upgrades. And I mean, this should definitely be working based on one of these section shapes, because later on we'll be using all of these to define some parameters that we're going to use in connections. Yeah, so basically guys, if you were working with such structural elements and faced such a problem, this is a technique that you can use for now, right? Let me load this back into the project. Select. Alright, we got no steel connections here. That's why the paint area is not defined. So I'm going to select this. Enter. And now if I select this, as you can see, it would be specified. So if you want these parameters to be specified completely, you need to have a steel connection. This is another class. Alright guys, as our next point, we got some new standards that we can use when we are using robots for structural designing. Let me try to give you an example. I'm going to set these on course. Then I'm going to add these elements up here. Now, before starting a conversation regarding the relations in between robots and Revit, we need to add some analytic lines. For doing so, we need to use Dynamo player. Select all and run. And we have the lines now. Let's save them. To transfer these to robot. Send model, direct integration, and okay. Right, this model would be transferred into robot structure. Now we can design it however we want and send it or transfer it back into Revit once again. Now, as I said, we got some new standards here, guys, for steel design more specifically. And there they are. And these are all set in the Autodesk website as well. Yeah, as I said, we can start designing our model here. And after we're done, we can transfer the end result into Revit again. Let's see what we can do here. For example, select this part, or even just this. Select plate. Then in this tab, we can apply some specific modifications. Yeah, basically, we are quite free to create any sort of modifications or connections, any sort of connections I want, and then transfer it back into Revit. Right. We don't really need to do this for now, so I'm just going to close this down. Oh, and by the way, when you're done, you can save your result and you can check it here. Basically, now we have a better relationship in between these two softwares. Another interesting feature that we have in Revit 2026 is called point-to-point steel modeling. Let me show you what it is. I'm going to remove this, go back to plan, and try using create to set up some axes here. Maybe a bit closer to each other. Alright. 0. A. And give me several copies. After that, I'm going to try using a column here. Maybe a default type. Based on the second level. Right, let's enter the second level. And now let's enter the 3D view. Also, let's minimize this one. Basically, I'm going to set these two views next to each other. You know what, let me try moving the level a little bit upwards, like on 4 meters. Okay. Yeah, good. Now, in the second level, I'm going to select beam. And again, let's try a default type here. Set this on grid. Now, a simple click drag. and finish. We can use beam system, guys. Give me an automatic, sorry. And then here in the properties, as for the settings, for example, I'm going to set this on fixed number or fixed distance, each 1 meter. Now guys, when we do this, by default, the software would automatically cut these elements inside our project or model. Let me try showing this to you in 3D. See, these are automatically cut. I'm going to select this beam system, right click, and the entire project. And for example, we can select another type. All right, good. Now guys, when we say point-to-point modeling, we mean that we actually need a starting point and an end point. Like this could be the starting point and this one, the end point. However, if we select this family in its properties, we'll find an item called Beam Cutback in Plan. And as you can see, currently it is set on from bounding box, which means that the cut would automatically be applied on this family based on the bounding box. Now, we can select this and use change reference, and for example, attach it to this reference. All right, let me go back, Control Z. Now, the point that we have here, guys, is that in this version, we can go to Structure tab, and then open up Structural Settings. And here we would find a new tab called Structural Steel Elements. Here we got Disable Automatic. Well, something, don't mind the rest. Just activate this option. And as a result, all the structural elements, such as structural framing, structural columns, structural trusses, what else? Beam systems, you can say. And well, basically all the other structural elements, all of them would be affected by this item, and as a result, you'll get the starting point and the end point that you wanted. And well, guys, after getting those points, you would be able to check and analyze the geometry better. Guys, this whole thing is quite useful when you want to set elements in your project, such as windbreaks. Yeah, I mean, finding the best points for setting these elements might be an issue. Let me try giving you an example. First, let me deactivate this item. Now, let me enter one of these views. Maybe north. Yeah, north view. We needed a windbreak, right? So I'm going to select brace. For the grid, give me B. Now for the type, I'm going to select the squared one and set this here. Now guys, because of these automatic cuts, later on we might face some problems when we want to connect these. So that's why we need to check this option, Disable Automatic. And now these would be set exactly in the points that you would specify. So again, we can check this whole thing, the geometry better. Now, we have some other changes that we can discuss here. For example, if we select this column or beam, in the properties, we won't be finding any parameter called length. Instead, we have system length and cut length now. More specifically, length, the length parameter has been renamed to system length, and we actually mentioned this before when we were discussing Dynamo. We said that when we are trying to create scripts, we should change the length to system length. And we also have cut length, and the cut length is, we can say the physical part, or we can say that it is the effective part, effective length. Now guys, if that disable item or option was checked, these two parameters would show you the same value. But if it was unchecked, the cutting was enabled, system length would represent the length in between the starting point and the end point. And again, cut length would represent the physical part, okay? Now guys, as our next point, when we are using point-to-point modeling, if we check this option again, some of the parameters would be disabled. Right, let me try giving you an example. If I select this, as you can see, we have no cutback parameters here. But if I enable this, if I uncheck this box, the cutback parameters would reappear. For example, I'm going to set this on 500 millimeters. Now, let me go ahead and check this box one more time, and as a result, the element would be connected automatically and we have no cutback parameters. By the way, guys, this item actually affects the weight that you're getting as well. For example, right now we have 241 kg. Now, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck this box again. And immediately the weight changes to 188 kg. All right, I'm going to set this on 10 millimeters. And the weight would changes to 217 kgs. But again, if we activate that option, if we check that box, we'll get a completely new weight here. Somehow a total weight. Alright guys, another point regarding this option, regarding activating or deactivating this option is that, let me select this, change reference would be disabled. Yeah, we can't use this anymore. Next up, guys, let's say we have a slanted beam, guys, or column, sorry. Let me move this here. Also get a copy and move the copied one here as well. I'm going to set the next one on this side. Which one was the copied one? This one. Let's call this one B prime. And then up here for that one. Let me just see. Oh, this is good actually. Control Z. Yeah, that'll do. As I said, let's say we want to work with a slanted column from the first level to the second. I'm going to try setting this column right here. Yeah. Let me check this. Okay, now we got this diagonal column. Now again, let me set the both views next to each other. Actually, this feature is not a new one. We had it in our previous versions as well. I'm trying to give you a reminder. Guys, diagonal columns won't be displayed correctly in plans. Why? Well, because of this item. Column symbolic offset. I'm going to change this to, for example, 1.20. But this would only be displayed as a section. But in fact, it is a diagonal one. But we can change their location. Like, I'm going to set this on 0 again. Yeah, as I said, this was just a quick reminder. Now, if I try using beam and set one, for example, here on this part, let me select a type. As you can see, by default, we'll get a collision like this. And again, if we go ahead and check this box, instead of this collision, we'll have a join in between these two. And its location line, guys, would be set on middle line. But well, as always, we have other options that we can choose. Like, for example, tangents with 10 millimeters of gap. Or maximum. Or even intersection point. Also minimum. And we can always specify these values. But honestly, I think tangent is the best option. Alright, now let's talk about some other features that we actually had in previous versions as well. Again, as some quick reminders. Like if you select this and do a right click here, you'd find detach from plane. So guys, basically when we set these based on a reference, it could be a reference level or reference plane, doesn't matter which. A reference level and work plane would be deactivated in the properties. And we can use this item to detach it completely. And after that, we can modify these items and parameters. Now, we can either press Ctrl Z or set this back on the second level. Alright, also as for another feature or item, we got flip structural framing ends. Take a look at this. There's this arrow here, the symbol specifying the course. Well, we would be able to flip this course or direction. Next up, we have select joint elements. This one automatically selects all the joint elements. And basically, we have these items that we can use to move through a structural project more accurately. Guys, another interesting item or feature that we have in Revit 2026 is called parametric rebar cranking. Guys, this feature is extremely useful when it comes to working on creating shop maps or shop plans, and also in rebar modeling process. So we got some points here that we need to discuss. Let's see what they are. I'm going to start my work by selecting a column and try setting one here. For example, something like this. Now entering one of these views. Right, and also maybe a level above this. Structure. I'm going to set this in structural floor plan for now. Alright. Now select, starting from the 0 level, and I'm going to remove this one for now and set this one on structure. So select structural here, structural plan. By the way, guys, these settings could vary based on the templates that you're working in. Alright, I'm going to set the next one on structural plan as well. Discipline on structural. Now back here, I'm going to rename this to level 1. Yes. Right, now we can enter an elevation view like this north view. Now select, copy, paste, align to picked place from the second level to the third one. And also maybe reducing the size a bit, like 50 by 50. Alright, now entering the second level. Then we can use slab or even floor to set a floor here. Now guys, we want to set some rebars here. For doing so, we can enter this plan. I'm going to set the scale on 1/20 for now. Now select, click on rebar, then let's select a linear one and also a type. Then up here by 2 point, perpendicular, and set this on 5 maybe. Now I'm going to select all of these rebars all around our plan. Now I need to deactivate or uncheck all of these checkboxes to prevent any overlaps. Right now, let's select this again and select another rebar. Also another type. Set this on maximum 200 or 150. Back to plan. Which level was it? This one, okay? Guys, if you ever faced an error like this one here, it means that you don't have enough view range. You actually have a few ways for modifying this. For example, you can try changing the view range from here. Or as another way, well, actually an easier way you can say, you can set a section here. Alright, then we can enter the section. Let's maximize the boundary a bit. Yeah, now we can work here a lot easier than before. As I said, perpendicular. And click here. Right, after we're done doing that, we can try selecting the rebars. Let me see. The direction, the course is upwards, guys. We need to modify the rebar structure, otherwise we would have some problems here later on. So let's just apply those modifications now. I'm going to set this on A. Alright. Then in here, I'm going to set the A on 1200 and this one on 0. So we won't be getting any 0 columns in our schedules later on. Now if I select this and check the properties again, as you can see, A has a value, but B is set on 0. Yeah. Now let's select the other rebar. This one is started from B. Again, I'm going to enter this tab here. How many edges? We got 4 edges, so I need A, B, C, D. I'm going to cut this from here. Set this in E. The rest is alright. Now back here, A. This one, B, C, and D. Guys, these are some primarily settings that we need for this process, and we haven't started our conversation on that feature. And also, we talked about all of these in our Revit structural tutorial. That's why I'm not explaining everything that much. I'm not spending any time on these settings. All right, I guess the order that we have here is completely correct now. And guys, remember, if you don't modify these parameters, later on you'd face many problems when you're creating your schedules. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and select this. This arrow should be facing upwards. Like, for example, this value, this is 4 meters. I'm going to set this on 0 for now. And then I'm going to change this to 520. This would move up, downwards. Okay, so Control Z. I'm going to select this. This one is also downwards. So to do this easier, I'm going to select this crank. And then use space to change the course. I'm going to set this on none. And now I'm going to set this on 520. And now it would move upwards. Now we need to do the same for the other parts. So again, select crank. Press space to flip this. 520. Now next up, you know what, guys? We can even hide the ones that we already modified. I mean, hide them temporarily. Okay, now next one. Again, select crank, then space. After it got flipped over, set this on none. And again, 5200. I guess we have another one. I'm going to go to 3D, press HH and hide this. Let me see what remains. Yeah, this one. So we should do the same thing for this as well. Crank. Now press space to flip it over. Then set this on none. And again, 5200. By the way, guys, currently we can't use these arrows here for changing the course. But I'm sure we'll have an upgrade later on in which we can use these arrows for doing so as well. Now, first, let's unhide everything using reset. Then maybe hide the middle bars again to have a better look on the side ones. In the properties, we'll see start of bar and end of bar. I'm going to select crank again. It is set towards exterior. We can modify this using space, or we can set this on 180. Next up, we can work on the thickness. Currently, we have 30. The gap that we want here should be 30 divided by 6 should be 5, I guess. Yeah, I guess this will do. So let's see what we can do here. I'm going to go to Project Browser. From Families, we have a segment called Rebar. And in here, we can find Rebar Crank. Now, we can select this and either try creating a new type. Let's call this Test. For the slope here, we have 1/6. Let's go with it. Then for the offset multiplier, guys, by the way, the values that we would set here would actually be used in the type properties. I mean, we have a segment for our cranks here. All of them would be used here as well. So, in fact, the crank offset multiplier that we would set there would be multiplied by our model bar's diameter, and the result would give us this parameter, which specifies this parameter, this crank offset. Now, currently this is set on 44. Now the diameter here is set on 22 and the multiplier was set on 2. So yeah, this 44 makes sense. And overall, we can modify or actually specify these values based on what we need. Now, I'm going to select this one and select test here, the one that we created. Now, we still need to modify these values further. Open up type properties. Here we got crank length. And we're working on test, so I'm going to deactivate auto. Don't want any automatic calculations. The crank is 1/6. Now, what we have for the length, for the straight length, we got 130. Give me 300 instead. And now our crank's length and also the gap would be specified here. Now guys, regarding the placements and attachments in cranks, we actually need to work with 3 constraints. We actually have edit constraints, as you can see. There's one constraint in the top, a middle one, and also a bottom one. So I'm going to hit edit constraint. Okay, if it was set on either sides, we could have just select this, set these on 0. And we could have done the same for this part. And for the top part, based on this part, I'm going to leave it on 1200 actually. Yeah, finish. We can always change these guys. Select the next one. Here we should also select the test that we created. Give me crank. Then crank and end on test. Again, guys, we can use space to flip these over, or we can up here click on edit and use this item here to change the course of our crank as we want. All right, finish again. Back to plan. All right, give me another section, this time vertically. All right. Entering the section. Now we should modify these bars and cranks here as well. Again, hide the middle bars. Then, just like before, again, select crank here. And then, test. And again, guys, we need to flip the course. I'm going to use space. Let's do this for the other one now. All right. Space again. Good. Now, let's go back to 3D. Use double H to hide these again. I want a better view. Yeah, everything seems fine. Let's reset everything. Next up, we can work on these corners, guys. Let me go back to the second level. I'm going to set this on fine. Can you see the rebars? Well, you know what? I think it's better to enter the first level. Now, these corner bars here, guys, should somehow be set in another angle, maybe like 45. So let's see how we can do that. So up here, I'm going to click on Edit. Select this corner. Then I can use Rotate. Then I'm going to try rotating this by, as I said, 45 degrees. Now, next one, based on the center, rotate by 45 degrees. Honestly, guys, these modifying items and features that we have in the new versions is extremely useful and interesting. 45. And the last one here. Again, rotate by 45 degrees. And finished. Back to 3D now. Let me hide this plate. It seems like we have a problem here. This is not correct. I guess they are these two. Yeah, these two are rotated in a wrong angle. In a wrong direction, sorry. Don't worry though, just select this. Edit bar. First, we can use reset to set this back. Now, rotate again. And this time rotate it from this side by 45 degrees. Okay. We should do the same for the next one. Again, reset first. And again, rotate. From here by 45 degrees. Alright, it's finished. I guess this is correct now. I need to reproduce the rebar. I'm going to select this and use propagate rebar. And we would get the crank up here as well. And if we didn't want this up here, we can set it on none. Alright, let's enter this top view. Give me a perspective view. And also let's hide these. Yeah, I guess this is quite nice, guys. I'm going to use fly to move through the model. As you can see, we have this very nice crank here. Now, in order to check this better, guys, let me reduce the flying speed a little bit. We talked about all of these settings in our Revit tutorial completely. We have 3 now. Let's reduce it to 2 or 1.5. And now we can fly through our model more slowly. Alright guys, we have our rebars, we have our cranks, and now we can start using these wherever we want based on our needs. As an example, I'm gonna select this, and up here from bending, I'm gonna select align, select this top one, cancel, here, bending again, where was it? Okay, it was here in the middle. Okay, I'm gonna set it here. I'm gonna set this rebar up here, and also another one in the bottom. Alright, nicely done. Let me go back to my 3D, change the view, select, from filters, select rebar. For the partition, I'm going to go with 301. For this top part, rebar, 3002. Right now from structure, let's enter reinforcement number tab. And we can modify these values as well. Okay. And we can even create a schedule, guys. Let's test this. Search for rebar. The parameters I want for the schedules will include type and also diameter. Then I need A. After that, B, C, and D. Then also give me bending details. And you know what? This would be enough, guys. As you can see, we got this very nice and accurate schedule. Now let's sort these based on their types to increase our accuracy even more. How about sheets, guys? We can create those as well. Give me a structural sheet. Here, for example, pump schedules. See what we got. There's structural rebar. Select and drag this here. Here we go. And we can also add those details and sections that we created into this sheet as well. Alright, I'm going to set this here. Select. Try reducing the boundary. For example, like this. Also, I'm going to turn this off. Right click. deactive. We also had another section. We can turn off the crop again. So right click, deactive. Basically, guys, this is a very interesting and useful feature. Next up, we can talk about fabric sheets, guys. Let me maximize this floor a bit, increase its size. Give me a fabric sheet. I need no tags and symbols. After that, I'm going to say section here. Guys, we got a new parameter here called wires that cover. We can specify which of these bars we want to be connected to the cover. We have these options here. Yeah, so we have this feature that we can use when we are working with a mesh or a fabric. And it could be a fabric that we created or a pre-made one. Doesn't matter which. Alright guys, let's talk about some of the changes that we have in MEP. First off, in an electrical discipline, when we create a panel schedule, we would be able to work with parameters or items such as sorting, grouping, and filtering for our panel schedule organizations. Okay? Let me elaborate. I'm going to do a right click here, browser organization. Now here, we would be able to create a specific panel or a specific structure. For example, I'm going to call this new one Electrical 2026. Now, here for group by, I'm going to go with panel name. And then down here for sort by, I'm going to go with level. All right, now select and apply. And they would be categorized like this in our project browser. Again, let's select browser organization. And here I'm going to set this on level. Okay. Apply again. Guys, basically this is a customizing technique. This is how you can organize your project and your project browser exactly as you want. Like, for example, I'm going to go with distribution system. And as a result, we'll get a couple of groups here. And again, guys, this is a new feature that we didn't have before. Guys, when it comes to working on tags and schedules for electrical elements, we got a couple of new parameters, part type and distribution system. Basically, guys, using these two parameters, we would be able to apply or specify more data and information for our electrical parts and elements, either using tags or schedules. To give you an example, let me open up a schedule. You know what? This one works, actually. I'm going to open up fields. And I'm going to add, for example, part type to this schedule. This would be the first parameter. And as I said, we can add distribution system as well. Again, new features that we didn't have in previous versions. Also, guys, we can use these parameters for our sorting in order to categorize everything or our schedule more accurately. See? That will basically be all. We also have some enhancements and changes for creating zones in MEP. Let me activate this. By the way, guys, this is a sample file. You can use by space, just like before. Just like in previous versions. Convert these spaces into zones. Or we can use sketch. For example, a sketch like this, and finish. Also, guys, we can enter the color scheme tab, add system zones, and specify the colors based on the zones that we got. Yeah, again, a new feature that is being supported in this version of the software. We didn't have this in previous ones. Let me set this legend here. Yeah, we can see these zones as color schemes now. By the way, guys, we can select the zones that we created using by space. And up here, use convert to sketch base. And well, obviously, the zones would be converted into sketch base ones. Guys, in this version, HVAC zones and system zone by floor are combined together. And now we have a system zone. which, for example, would be the exact thing that we have here. By the way, for having more accurate calculations, we can specify different types here, like you just need a duplicate. You know how it goes, guys. And then you can specify the parameters based on what you need, or, based on some specific standards. And we can also use equipments. We can specify names. And also, guys, system zones could also be added to schedules. And yeah, I guess that will be all regarding the changes that we have for system zones in this version of the software. Guys, in this version, we have a new feature for electrical discipline. We have it in settings. The feature is called electrical conductor and cable settings. Using this feature, we would be able to customize all the conductors and cables that we have in our project. And as for another thing, guys, if I try selecting an element that is set inside another system, for example, this maybe, actually this one is not in a system, but this one is. Anyway, we can customize these using the items that we have in the properties as well. For example, we can specify a cable type or even a cable size. And based on the type that we would create, we can calculate everything more accurately.